taking control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are, reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
outdoor experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make the louder noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman, that we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Space Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott, kicking off a new week, and it's good to have you along for the ride wherever you are on this planet we call Earth. We are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North on this Monday night, early Tuesday morning if you're on the East Coast, late Tuesday if you're in Australia. Thank you, Ozzy Andy, for letting us broadcast to you in the future. Appreciate that. Let's welcome in everyone listening in on the Space Out Radio's website, spaceoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. We do this thing every night of the week as we rock in and out of every episode. Thanks to our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. You can follow me on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And our website, of course, is spacedoutradio.com. Hey, if you want to take part in this show, because we don't take callers, you'll have to sign into one of the chat rooms on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, and on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, just go to hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and I will get you to your questions in there as well. If you haven't signed up on our website for the SOR Space Travelers Club like Mary did today, it's only $5 a month, and with that, your name gets entered into monthly prize draws, access to private group interviews, and so much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on our website, you can read up on my latest blog. I'm thanking everybody because it's Christmas week. And of course, Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest and weird news. If you've had an experience you just can't explain, head to our website, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Researcher Mike Schmidt is ready to find out what's going on with you. Hey, we want to thank everyone listening in on our new affiliate, the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you along for the ride. And if you're listening in on the Double R machine, yes, Revolution Radio is the largest nonprofit online radio station going today. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com to help donate. It's back to the paranormal tonight as it's time for the Chronicles Monthly Paranormal Roundtable, where we are talking everything ghostly, the good, the bad, the ugly of paranormal hunters everywhere. And what the heck, since it's the week before Christmas, we might as well even get into some Christmas cheer with some holiday ghost stories as well. The Chronicles team is made up of Mike Morin, Glenn Ferguson, and Derek White Sky Cloud, who are with us tonight. Troy Ryan had to work late, but, you You know he's laughing and smiling somewhere. This Canadian Paranormal team has more than 80 years combined of investigation and experience. They look for answers. They are true to their investigations here in British Columbia. Their job is to tell a story, help the spirits that come their way, along with their clients. No Pokemon Ghost with these guys. And tonight we're also joined by a special guest from Z-Talk Radio, Randy Plessor, who does a great job hosting Supernatural Diner, and he's a pretty good paranormal guy as well. We bring in the tandem of Chronicles of the Unknown and Randy Plessor. How are you, gentlemen? Good to have you with us.
Doing well, thanks, Dave.
Hey! That's awesome. That's awesome. Good team. And our chat rooms are filling up, which is always good to see. You know what, guys? It's right before Christmas. Have you guys all finished your Christmas shopping? Randy, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. I had to get the last Christmas shopping done. It's been a very traumatic year, and we've got to get everything all in. And, of course, I live in the state of Pennsylvania. And the exciting part where I live is I live next to Eastern State Penitentiary, Fort Mifflin on the Delaware, and Pennhurst. So you have to get your EMF meters for Christmas to go out here to these local sites. I mean, it's fantastic. And I'm ready for Santa.
Well, me too. Mikey, you get to play Santa Claus this year. You ready?
Haven't even started shopping.
Typical Canadian. Typical Canadian.
Friday or Saturday, I'll get it done.
How about you, Derek? What's coming in your stocking this year?
Oh, I think I've been Santa every day. I've been busy making my crafts and traveling, so it's been really busy for me.
And Glennard, how about yourself? You ready for Christmas? I know you just got the tree up.
Yeah, we just got the tree up today, which is kind of cool. We just moved in the house a few days ago, so it's been a kind of a tough haul. But I've had my Christmas shopping done since July, which is probably the easiest time to do it.
Oh, that's nice. What's that like?
It's awesome. You get deals on Christmas stuff.
I never really put June, July, and Christmas together. Maybe that's why I'm always scrambling at the end. Gentlemen, we're not just here to talk Christmas and what you're getting everyone for the holiday season, but we are here to talk some paranormal tonight because you guys come on the third Monday of every month, and this month we were joined by Randy Plessor. Normally, Amber Avalona joins us. She has for the last few months, but she suffers from chronic pain, and she's needing a break from everything. So if you're wondering where Amber is, we've given her some time off to try and heal herself. She figures she needs close to 6 months to a year in order to start feeling better and 100%. So we wish her well. And Amber, if you're listening, God bless. And, we're sending you lots of love and, and prayer for your pain. So Randy is now filling in, the amazing Randy, as we'll call him around here. I don't know how he grows a good beard, but, we can definitely ask.
Absolutely. Where do you want to start tonight, Dave? Because I'm excited. I mean, you've got this great television show, and I've worked with Glenn in the past. And Glenn, I'd love to hear your voice after all this time. Just hearing from you is fantastic.
Well,
how are you?
Let's ask about this. Let's ask about this. How do you two know each other?
We both worked for Z-Talk Radio along with Derek Whiteside Cloud as well, so we've got to know each other through each other's show, became guests on each other's shows, and we've just been friends ever since.
That's wonderful. I didn't even know up until earlier today that you guys had even known each other. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to actually see that, and in the reality, Glenn, the paranormal community is a very small community, isn't it?
It was. It's gotten a lot larger over the years, but it is still a tight-knit community. We all pretty much know each other to a certain degree, especially the guys that have been in the field for a while.
Derek, do you still see it as a small community? I mean, you've been around since, they were banging out information, rock to concrete, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I would say at the beginning, for example, when I was doing radio from 2002 on the internet here. We've been busy doing a lot of paranormal investigations. We were trying to do live on location for people, and something we were experimenting on back then. That was part of Z-Talk at the time as well. But I guess would say myself, Glenn, we've been busy doing a lot of paranormal investigations on our own before we got to know each other at the time. So it still hasn't stopped. I mean, I got people still calling me and asking me about places that they are feeling that actually needs to be investigated. So, and I always keep telling the guys, we got some places we can go to. So nothing's done yet, never will be. But one thing I will say, and everyone keeps on telling me this last few weeks, they're wondering if actually Santa Claus really is a ghost or if he's real. So does it take a paranormal team to investigate if actually Santa really exists?
Interesting. What do you think it is? What is Santa Claus?
Well, he keeps on showing up sometime because they keep on saying they keep on using chimneys. He doesn't use windows. So it's been known that ghosts actually used to use the chimney following the smoke. You got that smoke look to it, and or else he'd come in some other type of vent, landing on the roofs. How can anybody else get in the roof without using a ladder? It's ghostly. It's got to be ghostly, I think. Think about it.
Mike, what do you think? Santa Claus, paranormal entity, or just mom and dad?
Oh, I can't say it's mom and dad. There may be kids listening. He's magical and mystical, and he comes down your chimney or through your vents if you don't have a chimney in apartments. He's kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is stalkerish that way, isn't he? And we're going to get to later on in the show if you guys have had any paranormal Christmas stories coming up. But let's get to the paranormal. And Randy, I'm going to start with you here because you had me on your show last week. And I appreciate you having me do that. We did that 2 weeks in a row, and that's a lot of fun to just be able to banter away. But you gave me a good idea with you coming on this show this week. And the topic that you had was, is paranormal unity an absolute farce, or is it something that we can actually strive for to get in this community? And then there's a bunch of sub-questions under that. But let's talk a little bit about paranormal unity, because there's a real lack thereof in the paranormal unity field. And I'm wondering if, in conjunction with paranormal unity, if that is the absolute undoing of the paranormal field for credibility.
Well, when we start getting into this, there's a couple of things. Number one, I'm definitely for para-unity, but I'm also have an organization called Supernatural Standards, something on Facebook that people can take a look at. When we get a headache or we go to the doctor and we have the flu, we take a series of tests given by a doctor to find out what we have in order to get a antibiotic, cough syrup, etc. In the paranormal, we don't have that guidelines yet. We don't have applicable theories. And one of the problems, we can argue about here is everybody's right or wrong. And the problem is you can't put a ghost in a petri dish. You can't put human beings in a petri dish. And this is one of the problems coming to the paranormal. The demagoguery driving this industry is money and television-based rather than research-based. And when people have their hands on, and I did this with a woman who, her name was Danielle Ignu. She was a producer in Hollywood, and she told me that one of the reasons why people did the paranormal, in her opinion, was they wanted a television show, which now we're going to make I Have Things More Than You, and we start playing the childish game back and forth. And I have a small consortium together and I have you on that too, and Glenn, and I love everybody else to participate. As we get together, we need to start coming together with more applicable theories and family orientation. At a $10 event, whether via Skype or whatnot, coming together around the world, talking about truth, what we should be. What is our mission statement? Why do we do this? Why do we spend the time researching this? Why do we go out and investigate? If we don't have a mission statement at the top, and I come from the nonprofit world, how do you make your subcategories and create your standardization underneath? Wouldn't you agree?
I would totally agree, but on the flip side, there's a lot of people and a lot of different agendas here, Glenn, in regards to what, in my opinion, is holding back any sort of paranormal unity that goes along with this field. What is your opinion?
Just like Randy said, paranormal unity is kind of something we kind of strive for. It's probably never going to happen because everyone has a different standard, a different guideline, as you say. No one wants to follow anybody else's guideline because they think they have a better idea. But it's one of those things we have to just be careful how many toes you step on along the way when it comes to paranormal unity. I just try to keep myself a little bit under the radar. And I know Randy and I have talked on at length about paranormal unity, and we just seem to go around in circles for most of the time.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, Derek. Everyone is going around in circles, but nobody ever seems to have a solution as to what to do. You've been around for 40, 50 plus years involved in the paranormal. I mean, it's weird because you're only like 52, but...
I'm 60 years old, man.
I know you are. I didn't want to give away your age.
That's okay, I don't mind.
But what I'm saying, my friend, is we have this circle, like Glenn is saying. How do we finally find an answer to what this circle is?
My wife walked in the door. She goes, "What are you laughing at?" She doesn't even know I was on radio. The interesting part of it is that everybody has a tendency of, you can always have people become competitive continuously for I don't know how many years. But the thing is that the whole thing is that I've always learned about what is interesting about paranormal is I grew up with it. I grew up with it being not the word paranormal, but the curiosity of why and what it is that's in this building. When I experienced it when I was a kid, what scares me? What can I do to overcome my fear? What can I do to find out what it is? And that's what this whole thing is all about, is finding out who, what, when, and where. And then you're always curious. Nobody actually used the word paranormal. Nobody ever used the word psychic. Nobody ever used the word medium or any type of and all we keep on thinking, everything's a ghost or everything is a demon. Not everything's a demon, nor everything is a ghost. We just don't know. We want to find out. That's our curiosity. And so now we talk about paranormal unity. Yes, if you have a bunch of kids getting together and goes, "Oh, there's a ghost in that building over there. It's just outside. It's been known for over 100 years that building is haunted." So you always see a movie or some sort of story and you hear about a house that's supposed to be haunted, and all these kids want to explore it. They want to walk in, want to see if there's actually a ghost in there. And half the time they scare themselves. They don't have any equipment. All they got is a flashlight or something that they can use to see in the dark, and they scare themselves up. So what happens after that, right? That's what it's about. We were always a team in the beginning because we're a bunch of kids growing up, wanting to learn about what this is all about. As time goes on, people start growing into the idea of wanting to become paranormal. When the words come out, when that word came out, paranormal investigator, it all came out within a matter of the 1980s, 1990s. Next thing you know, now it becomes big on television. Everybody wants to be a paranormal investigator because we've seen either ghost hunters or ghost busters or something else. But we've always been curious whether it was based on a movie or based on having to watch documentaries. So it depends on who and what we can experience. Myself, Paranormal Unity, that's why we're a team. And like Glenn and Mike and Troy would say, it's great to meet other teams. This is why we did a paranormal conference a couple of years ago. We wanted to bring other teams down to see what they do so they could work together and share our stories. That's basically what it was about, because everybody has a different kind of ghost. Everybody has a different kind of investigation. So we're experiencing something different. We're called the experiencers, and so then we want to find out what the history of it is. So that's what I think is important.
Mike, what is your take? Do you see that circle with paranormal unity continually running around in circles with no solutions being offered whatsoever? Or do you think it's just a bunch of whiny people trying to perfect something that doesn't even exist?
Do you want a censored answer? No, I'm kidding. I'm for paranormal unity. I'm not proud to say I would love to learn off other teams. Other teams may know more than me. I may be able to help other teams. I do see a circle of, there's a couple groups out there that'll try and undermine or take things from other groups, which I think is strange. Why not just work on or things together? So I am for the para-unity. Fully.
Yes, I understand that you're for it, Mike, but do you feel there is too much ego involved in regards to this whole situation we call the paranormal unity? Because there are so many different attitudes and so many different personas that are surrounding this, from investigative techniques to what people are actually trying to solve or debunk. Is it possible?
I think it's possible for people to get along, but yeah, there are a lot of egos. There are a lot of my ghost, I can catch a ghost better than you attitudes, or my EMF detector is stronger than yours, which I think talking like that is silly. Will there ever be para-unity? We don't know, but I would like to see it. And doing these conferences, doing roundtables like this, or doing like monthly roundtables at an IHOP somewhere with other groups to bounce evidence off people or bounce ideas off other groups to see what they think or what you think. I think that would help promote paranormal unity, where you can do large-scale investigations with these teams without spitting venom at each other.
And Randy, what do you think about that, though? Is there too much venom being shot right now because there's so much ego involved, or do you think that it's just a slight few who are ruining the experience for so many?
And it's a slight few, and this is the problem. See, in the area where I live in, was the mecca for the show Ghost Hunters. Now, like I said, I live in a place called Norristown, Pennsylvania. 30 minutes away is Fort Mifflin on the Delaware, Pennhurst, Eastern State Penitentiary, which became infamous in the paranormal world on multiple television shows. We focused our efforts with a few people on television-based evidence. And when we came together, once again, why do we investigate? We're interested in life after death studies. David Giuliano, who was the executive director of South Jersey Ghost Research, actually has his mission statement and his 501c3 documentation for a nonprofit in the paranormal to study death. One of the things that when groups get together, and we did this as a standardization show, why do we investigate? Why do we do evidence review? What is the sole purpose? When we come together to bowl, and we're bowling together playing golf, the object of the game is to get the hole in the ball, enjoy the camaraderie, eat the salad, and come back there again the next week and argue that our wives spent too much money. Or etc. But in this world, we go out there and there's no standard created. Therefore, what you create, what Derek, what your whole guests, your teams, everything is correct. Now it becomes chaos. We have applicable chaos. Now applicable chaos becomes I have 5,000 EVPs and 40,000 photos. Well, now what do you do with them? How do I explain to somebody that I'm talking to a dead person? I hold a chair up and I'm talking to the chair and the chair gives me a file. Well, that's never going to hold up. How am I going to take my applicable evidence and my understanding and create it and sit down with Glenn and Derek and yourself, and all of us together and work together as a copacetic team to understand what we're doing? And this is where this argument, you're talking plantations were burned down in the United States. You were talking about people had threatened one another with pistols because of territories like robbers of the 20s. And when you get down to it, why you do this, they can't answer the question. They can't.
Derek, what do you think about the egos that are involved? Because like we're hearing Mike and Randy say, there are a ton of egos out there, but nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Nobody seems to be trying to clean up their act.
The funny thing I find actually is when you'll hear when people find out that there are that there is actually a paranormal team out there, like us as Chronicles or whoever, all of a sudden there's another group of people say, well, hey, you know what? Let's do the same thing. Even though we don't have the experience, but we'll pretend we have experience. We'll go on those locations where those guys already went to. Or they're going to try and see if they can, they heard a story and they're going to go on this location and see if they can raise some information, see if they can get a ghost. Even though they may not have the equipment, but they'll have all these groups come out there and they want to experiment to see if they can get something. Oh yeah, okay, I'll get something. The thing is, these people have forgotten they've been watching so much TV and so much, basically TV, and they want to be like everybody else. They want to be like us or be like Zach Bagans or somebody else's paranormal team. And they want to see if they can do the same thing, get the exciting adventure. Well, you know what? We're living in Canada. We're not in the United States, or we're not in Europe. You know, some of the countries have actually had a lot of violence and a lot of wars in the past. And yes, Canada may have had its own wars in the past, but that's more the eastern coast. Western coast is a little bit different. Depends on what you're going to find. It depends on where Randy lives. You know, depends on what's there on his territory. So, you know, where Glenn's from, he's originally from England. So there's major ghost activity in England. Major ghost activity. And you either, and some areas have a lot of paranormal activity, and some areas don't have much at all or nothing at all. So, and you're still going to find people out there in England that say, well, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. I don't believe there's a ghost. And yet they don't realize, you know, if you shut something off, if you really don't want to believe in it, that's where it happens. But if you really want to know what's going on, we're always curious. And we're always, like my good friend Barb Leonard would say, we have the curious mind. And we'll always have the curious mind. I want to find out what makes it tick and how we can do better. Now, whether we agree to disagree, we're going to always have a paranormal team or other groups of people that may agree to disagree. And even Glenn, say between Glenn and myself or Mike and myself, there's always something that we don't agree with regarding, like say, for example, Glenn doesn't believe in orbs to be ghostly. Now, that's because we've always been taught at the very beginning that orbs could be ghostly, or it could be a form of ghostly attention. But next thing you know, there's been so much evidence out there saying those are orbs or those are dust. Okay, now we're not sure anymore. Now, what do we really believe? Again, we're using a lot of technology compared to just carrying in a regular tape recorder that's reel to reel. That's way changed now. Everything has been so vitally changed. We're not walking in with a common regular tape recorder. Everything's digital. That was always small cameras, not big cameras. You know, and sometimes back then we never had video cameras. We just actually had a regular freaking camera, and you're hoping that your regular camera works. So again, you'll always come across whether and you're going to have people that want to be like us, and some people want to do better. They want to outdo them, and you're going to outdo them and outdo them. You know what? You're going to keep on trying. It's like competition. You're trying to go for which has the best beauty contest. Well, you know, Glenn's the most handsomest guys around. So, I mean, you know, you're going to have...
yeah, right.
You're going to have Beauty and the Beasts. You know, we're going to go up against a lot of this stuff. And we have fun doing it.
Beautiful Glenn, we bring you in here. Do you think there's too much ego involved for the paranormal unity, or do you think that maybe it's just a few people who are stirring things up for the rest of them to get PO'd at?
There are definitely some egos out there. Not as many as you think, but there is a lot of hoarding of evidence. If you do an investigation or another team does an investigation, you approach them and say, hey, what did you find there? They'll say, nothing. Well, can you send me some of your evidence? Not a chance. It's like, okay, well, thank you very much, and I'm on my way, thanks. But we've been trying lately to pass off some of what we find on our investigations, especially when it comes to Chronicles of the Unknown, to other teams, especially if they're going to head out there and try it for themselves, which has been known to happen over the last 6 or 7 months. Which, good at them, you know. Go out there and see if you can try to recreate anything that we came up with on that particular investigation, which is kind of cool as well. I've kind of backed off on trying to be pushy about the way that I approach paranormal investigating or the way that other people do. I've kind of mellowed out over the years, as you can see, and it's never going to change. It's always going to be the same. Like, everyone's going to have an opinion, even when it comes down to paranormal unity. Who's going to run that kind of governing body that says, yes, this is the way we should be doing this, as opposed to somebody else's opinion?
But let's say this now. Are we starting to see, and I'm focusing this on the Chronicles team, and Glenn, will start with you on this one. I'm starting to see a lot of people slowly start to back away from the paranormal field. I mean, now that Ghost Hunters is off the air, and that was the granddaddy of them all, let's face it, okay, but now that it doesn't have a home and is off the air, now all of a sudden, that's when the interest stops, because that granddaddy is no longer in front of your face on your television anymore. Do you think this is the beginning, Glenn, of where we see the paranormal start to be pared down a little bit? Or do you see it just a change in direction?
I think it's just a change in direction. There's new shows coming out all the time. Ghost Adventures has been going for years, just as long, well, just behind Ghost Hunters. Paranormal State was before them. They came and went, and like, there's new shows that, like, every week I tune in and I go check on the channels and say, all of a sudden there's a new show coming out, and oh, great, so I'll check that one out this time. So it depends on people's perception on how they take those reality shows. Like, in the beginning, fair enough, Ghost Hunters had the market on it because they were doing stuff that was not reenacted. It didn't have any actors in it. Originally it was supposed to have actors in it, but with the amount of time it was going to take the team to explain how to use the gear and how they operate, they said, oh, well, you may as well just do it yourselves. And that was the basis behind Ghost Hunters. As new shows are going to show up, different approaches on how to use equipment is going to come up, different methods of investigating are going to be there. So I don't think it's going to really, I think it's kind of a lull right now because Ghost Hunters has gone out.
Randy, what's your opinion on this? Do you think that with the passing of Ghost Hunters and them not having a new television show home, and I'm very surprised they didn't get picked up because they are a ratings magnet, but since they're gone, is this the beginning of the end for paranormal television and maybe some of these people who have an interest in wanting to learn investigation?
That's a good question. And, when we were chatting, over the last 5 years, it is a great show for entertainment. And we learned from it. But I also went for different methodology. I was going for methodology from John Sabol, S-A-B-O-L, and being trained as a ghost excavationist, which he took over to Scotland. And I think your show is airing in Scotland. So he was training people in Scotland and over in Europe on this new methodology. And the basic methodology is meters and everything are constant. You start doing acting scenarios, which is something that we had tried together, and it works. And we did it at Fort Mifflin on the Delaware as well as Eastern State Penitentiary. But as Ghost Hunters now goes between the wayside and disappears, the DVDs are always going to be there. They're going to be for sale at yard sales, to secondhand shops, to DVD shops. The show is infamous. Years to come will still be there. Live in the theater, here comes Ghost Hunters. The attrition rate is going to be, what I'm told, between 25 and 34%. But we go back to the same scenario where we started. Why do we want to do this? And this is where the word para-unity, people get confused. So with the attrition rate going down a little bit, why do we go out and want to do an investigation? Now, my father just recently passed away in the last 3 weeks, and I've had a paranormal experience when he died. I actually watched my father get out of his body. So learning this field, I'm going to be researching this for the rest of my life, understanding my father lived to 85 years old. He died of something called aortic stenosis and some horrible stuff where he couldn't swallow anymore, dysplasia. And what happens was things would go in his throat, and he had to drink honey-thick water every day in order to survive. We don't look at our reason we investigate. So therefore, when we get down to the next level, and this is why when we produce supernatural standards, we're trying to take a look that we're not trying to do a show comparison or movie comparison. We're trying to take a comparison of different methodologies and different studies and try to create the hypothesis. And this is why I'm anxious to see these guys in action in their television show, to see the applicable theories and actions and scientific dissertations that are able to be created. Because now we can take the applicable theories and now put them in there and have other people try them. And that is the failure of where we're going. The failure is the ego said, listen, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do this or that, because this in the state of Pennsylvania in the United States is timed from the beginning to middle of August to the end of October. That is our area of hauntings and paranormal. Now, the paranormal is active 365. But as far as the way we work here in the state, many, many people are limited to what they do. Where I'm keep coming back to, and where I want to come back to you and the rest of your guests, is if we can agree why, maybe we can come together by the time the show ends of Paraunity. What do you think?
Well, I'm good with that.
But do you see, though, Mike, as so we bring you back in here, do you see that people are going to start to get turned off? Do we see that phase starting to come in where people are like, yeah, I've done this, it's like riding the same roller coaster over and over again, and eventually you do get tired of it. Do you see that starting to happen, or do you think that there is still a lot more newbies coming into the field?
For one, I prefer Ghost Adventures over Ghost Hunters. Guilty.
So you're the one. You're
I'm
the
the
one.
one.
You're the one Canadian who does that.
I'm a Zach fan. Yep.
Is that why you wear your hair like that?
Yeah, it is exactly why.
Okay.
But no, I think a lot of the newbies come into this field thinking they're gonna see a possession and a Ouija board fly across the room. But when they go on to their first investigation, they're usually terribly saddened because 7 out of 10 times, usually nothing will happen. Going on paranormal investigations, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes you'll catch some good audio evidence or a good photo, or the next 2 nights, not a boo, nothing. I all think that a lot of the new people think it's exactly like the shows, because when you watch a show, I use Chronicles for an example. When we shot up in the Caribou, we will do 3 days of shooting with probably 50 hours footage where Glenn will condense into 44 minutes. So out of, if you take 70 hours minus 44 minutes, that's a lot of nothing footage. So yeah, a lot of the new people get very disappointed.
Derek, besides being able to give some much-needed hair tips to Mike...
My hair's fantastic, 10 out of 10.
No, I beg to differ. But Derek, on the flip side, seeing what you have seen in the paranormal over the vast expanse over the last few years, and we have talked ad nauseum that television is one of those good and bad things about what has happened over to the paranormal field in the last little while. So do you see there being some sort of lull in people getting involved now that a television show like Ghost Hunters is off the air?
Well, I think also, too, people are actually looking for that, like you mentioned about the Ouija board. There's a lot of people out there right now. They're waiting for that Ouija board for it to burn or something that you'd like to challenge it somehow, and or something that relates to scariness. The public is still looking for the scare. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for to see if we're going to get scared or we're going to make her. It's not everything has to be scary, and a lot of it's all to do with curiosity. I mean, we really do want to be curious. So.
No, and I can understand that we want to be curious. We want to learn what is going on. And we just lost Derek there for a second as Skype backs up a little bit on us here. So we are trying to get Derek and Randy back with us here momentarily. Glenn, I'll bring you in here right now, if you don't mind, while we are trying to fix these Skype issues. Do you find that when you have this many people involved, and this many people who are trying their damnedest to make themselves part of the profession of the ghost hunting experience, do you think that one of the problems that they are having right now, Glenn, is that they are trying to form some solutions without any experience?
Yeah, you could probably say that. Especially the new teams that are coming out, they're basing all their methodology basically on what they see on TV. Or they may have popped along with another paranormal group at one point and thought it was kind of interesting, not realizing that they're going to be sitting there for 8 hours pretty much doing nothing other than twiddling your thumbs and hoping someone's going to respond to a question you ask. I'm not quite sure on that one, to tell the truth, whether it's going to make much of a difference.
Mike, what do you think on that? Do you think that there is some sort of reasoning behind people maybe still continuing to come to the paranormal?
Oh, like, are you still thinking, are you asking if it's going to continue to be appealing to people? Yes, I think it will. There was a question you asked earlier, I think Derek answered, between, what was it, tight-knit paranormal groups versus non-tight-knit? Well, your first question, I forget what it was tonight. But I had an answer on deck that was going to go with what you just asked. I think the true tried, tested, and true paranormal investigators are going to stick to it, but a lot of the new ones that think they're going to get a ton of evidence every night will fizzle out. Because we see that now, like in a couple of our groups that we're in, right? It's Glenn and I.
But with these groups, there's always different types of attitude that goes along with them. Some people want to play Pokemon Ghost. Other people want to find the reason to life. Other people want to communicate and help the spirits and help the clients maintain some sort of relationship with the spirits. Derek, is this a healthy mix to have a group like that, or should everybody be kind of focused on the same thing in these paranormal groups?
Well, myself, for example, I'm not a, how you say it, a rescue medium. You know, I'm not going to go rescue a goat, so to speak, if that's, unless it's absolutely necessary. I mean, when you're part of a paranormal team, your job is supposed to investigate, to find out what is there, and if there is anything when you're called in to do something. But other than that, it shouldn't have to make it as difficult as most people think. But again, there's a lot of people out there that have these ideas that they need to be far more glamorous, and some people like to make it dressy and make it much bigger than what it is. And yet, when you like, even what Mike said, when Glenn's done looking through all the when he does all the editing, we're lucky if we got some really good stuff. And if we do have some really good stuff, that's great. But we can't add in something there that doesn't really exist. And I'm not going to do. We don't want to do that. It's not to glamorize it. You really want to say, here is the truth, right? So,
what do you think, Glenn?
Just like Derek said, like we tend not to do what you would see on TV shows. We're not going to overreact and yell and scream and run down the corridor. That just doesn't happen. Generally, it's just standing there with our mouths open, wondering, okay, so what was that? Could you do it again? Could you just move something again, just like you did right now? And generally, we'll either get a response or we won't get a response. But there's no yelling and screaming and backing up and running into, well, apart from Mike. Never mind. He's probably still listening. But that's not the way we are. We're not that way as an investigator. A lot of it's very, very boring to watch. And some of our show actually shows you what we are like outside of what we do as investigators, which is kind of a little bit different.
And Mike, would you concur with what Glenn and Derek have said, or do you think there's a different side to it?
No, Glenn pretty much said exactly what I would say. So no, I have nothing more to say to that one. Glenn was spot on. We don't glamorize at all. If we don't get any evidence on one of the shows that we have filmed, then you get a really good show on history of the location we were at, with lots of B-roll.
So when you guys are out filming, and I'm trying to get Randy back on, but for some reason there's an issue with his Skype line right now. So hopefully we'll be able to do that here momentarily. But when you guys are filming, how important is it on the location, Mike, and what is happening on the location? Is it just about a good camera presence on the location and maybe the rumors that it's haunted, or do you want to know that this place definitely has spirit and ghost activity?
Well, that's usually where we go. We want to know if what type of paranormal activity, if any, that's there. It is camera. Like, Glenn's great on the camera. Glenn's great with the camera angles, but it's also putting the time in at every location of if we can or cannot obtain paranormal evidence, be it a voice in an audio recorder or something on the camera.
Derek, I bring you in on this. Is location more important? Because camera has to look pretty. Something has to look pretty on camera. That's just the way it is. Television has, I know in my little experience in television, there has to be a beautiful picture in behind the scenes. So how important is it to try and phase the two in and have a good combination of a nice silhouette in the background with a good paranormal experience?
Well, see, with Glenn, with Mike, for example, he has to dress up really well for the girls. I mean, he's the youngest guy in the group, so like he's the guy that the girls turn to as the fan base. And for Glenn and myself, we're the guys that are in the background watching Mike do his own thing. So, no, just kidding. It's because girls, he's actually single. Well, I don't know. We try to make it as exciting as possible as far as our investigating is concerned. We really like to see some excitement. Really do. I would say one of the places that we were in, and I think what I love that's most coolest is where Glenn did one investigation and he challenged himself going alone in one of the buildings. And Glenn knows which one it is. And we left him there. And in fact, they wanted the door locked, and he wanted to stay inside and see what we can get out of it on his own by himself. And whether he got more results being by himself, he's done it once before. I mean, we're actually 2 locations. And I think sometimes, too, you have to do something on your own. You can't always go in as a team. Yes, you could be a team, but sometimes you could be left alone in the room to see if you get a little bit more activity, because once in a while you do have the odd spirit ghost that does not want to be around a lot of people. They like to be around. They'll probably talk to one person, and that's where you get a lot of it. You get a little more attention from the rest of the group. See, like even when somebody coughed, that made me jump. But that's exactly what it's like, because you're gonna hear that sound from them sometimes.
So when you're filming on location, and Derek, we'll stick with you on this one for a minute. How important is it to try and not only show what's going on with the way you guys are reacting, the way you guys are taking part in this, but to also be able to show what you are filming as well, whether it's an old store or schoolhouse or hotel.
I can answer that one for you if you want, Dave.
Okay, sure. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, we weren't originally kind of based as a paranormal, just purely paranormal show. The whole point for us was to show you a historical side of British Columbia that pretty much not a lot of people know about, other than Barkerville. The location that Derek was talking about, where I went off by myself, was actually not too far away from you, David, and that was at 108 Mile. So just down the street, just a hop and a skip away from where you are.
Oh, you're one of the rare ones who has actually been to the cabin here. All three of you. Rare ones.
Yeah, but like I say, that's... Even when we don't have an interesting show as far as paranormal, sometimes on some of the episodes, we don't capture everything every episode as it would do on any other show. But then again, we only have 3 days at a time to shoot an episode. They generally have a week. We tend to flip-flop back and forward in between history as opposed to just the paranormal. So we do have a backstory going along with our paranormal findings. Even if we don't find anything, you will find out something about the location we're at.
Mike, is it something when you're filming that you need to be able to watch all things at once? Because, I mean, you do want to paint a nice picture of what you are doing, an honest picture, but you also want to make the public understand and realize that there's no acting going on. This is the real deal.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is the real deal. We don't... I think we're guilty for being maybe a little too blasé sometimes, because it is like an old hat sometimes when we go to these locations, because we've investigated certain locations multiple times. Yeah, I just drew a blank in my head, to be honest. Get Derek on that one. Come back to me.
Derek, do you think that we need to be able to paint a nice picture of what we are doing so we're showing the public who may believe or disbelieve that you're making up the evidence because they've seen it on television? Many shows have been accused that the whole attitude of having real live paranormal, albeit recorded and edited, still needs to show some regularity.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, you yourself know. I mean, ourselves as a team, we even actually invite people to come experience our work, to see for them through what they feel is exciting, or which will become more active, should say. And and I'm sure yourself, you can pretty well share with everybody else that for as often as we've done investigations, you've been with us quite a lot in your area, and you've had your own experiences, and other people have had their experiences. So it's you can try and convince the public as much as you possibly can, and everybody's going to be their own critic. They're going to keep on picking on. There are going to be people out there that are say, "I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it." You can do all the same. You can say all what you want for it. I don't believe it. We invite those people to come out and see. Look, you experience it yourself. If you get something, great for you. If you don't get something, hey, we're not going to sit there and go like, "Oh well, not my fault." Because you are making you're taking a chance. If you are interested in the paranormal investigating and you want to experience it, you're going to experience it yourself. If you already had your own experience before you knew us, then you know what it's like.
What we've done on our shows is we'll invite the curator or manager to come on the investigation with us so they can experience paranormal activity, if any, in their buildings or grounds. We do that also for continuity and for the show. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Randy, we bring you back in here. We got about 3 minutes before the break. What we're talking about is when filming television on the paranormal, how should, in your opinion, because I believe you're an outsider here, in your opinion, how should these television shows go about filming where there is absolutely concrete 100% or as close to it as possible that there is no way that it could be looked like the evidence or the video footage is faked?
We look at this. I'm a pretty hands-on approach guy when it comes to doing this. You photograph it, and my belief is you take it in front of the public and you say to them, you decide. You introduce them. What I was trying to do is produce a locally produced television. I bought 54 cameras, 2 remixing laptops, and what I'm trying to do is produce a television series for YouTube. And to answer that question, I film it, put it up there, you look at it, then you decide. It cuts down on the banter of what is or what not, because, in all retrospect, we all have great opinions. We all can come up with great applicable theories. In where I'm coming from, I want to see the audience participate and view. So do you agree or disagree on that?
Well, let's get the team's opinion. Glenn, what do you think?
Well, I'm 100% behind what Randy's doing right there. I agree completely.
Why is that?
Thank you, my friend.
It's honest. It's right out there. It's not saying my opinion is my opinion and not getting any feedback on that particular opinion. The way he's doing it with the YouTube thing is good. Like, there's lots of shows that have started out that way. Actually, a lot of investigators who have started out on television shows because of that particular way of thinking. Brian J. Cano, for example, he was with Scared before he even got on with Johnny Zappis and Haunted Collector. So it's a stepping stone. It's a good way of doing it, too. It's very honest.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what's your thoughts on it? We got about 30 seconds.
I agree. I agree with Randy and exactly what Glenn said. It's a very honest approach to do that, and it's a good way to get feedback.
Mm-hmm. And Derek, quickly squeeze you in. Do you agree that there should be some sort of purpose there?
Yeah, there should be. And you know what? Here I find this interesting. Real quick, we should have. Too bad one time we should actually have. I think we used to do that years ago, but have cameras on us, go live on location. But the camera is on the investigators, so those people get once they're watching us walking into the dark, they're experiencing us walking in for the very first time. So it's not just pre-visit, but you're already there, and I think that's going to help a whole lot.
On that note, we're going to hop out for a break here on Spaced Out Radio. We will be right back with more Chronicles of the Unknown and Randy Plessor in hour number 2. We'll be right back.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries, so tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Reveal Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. I know Gloria's loving that song. She loves it. Cranks it up every night. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. Tomorrow night, we are going back into the forest. Samantha Ritchie is going to join us. We are talking Bigfoot and Sasquatch and the big hairy beast that roams the wilderness that apparently doesn't exist, but for some of us, it truly does. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. If you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. We want to thank everyone listening in on United Public Radio Network live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you along for the ride. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ovoviviparousness. Ovoviviparousness. Or parouseness. Ovoviviparousness. Maybe it's that one. One of the two. That's your password for tonight. If you could use it in a sentence, I will clap for you. Maybe just a 3, golf clap kind of thing. But that is your password for tonight. Bill sets it each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Remember, you can follow us on social media at Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Of course, if you head there, we have a plethora of features for you. I highly suggest you check them out, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. And remember, if you are listening in and following along on Twitter and you want me to get to a question for our panel, make sure you use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio, just like God of Thunder. That man is a legend on the Twitterverse. Legend, I tell you. A plethora of tweets for him. We bring Derek White, Sky Cloud, Glenn Ferguson, Mike Morin in from Chronicles of the Unknown. We are joined by Randy Plessor again tonight. He's out of his computer troubles and back in the hot seat. Welcome back, gentlemen. Appreciate you having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
A lot of people, when they go into paranormal investigations, there's always that one person who is a little bit more ballsy than the rest. They want to do everything on their own. Maybe not the most experienced person or the smartest at times, but there are people like that. Glenn, I know you've done it, but I also trust on a different sense that you are someone who has enough experience out there for investigating the last 30 plus years that you know what you're doing if you're on an investigation or hold up in a building or something along those lines alone. Is that something you recommend, or is it something that only the most experienced people should do?
For a new investigator, probably not such a smart idea until you know what you're doing. For our case, even though I was alone in the building, the guys weren't more than about 100 and 150 foot away from me, and we were connected via radio. There was also a camera on me and a camera on my forehead, so whatever I was capturing was pretty much instantaneous for those guys to pick up and get to us in a hurry. So we weren't really worried about that, even though they say they locked me in, which they did on video. As soon as the video was turned off, it was unlocked anyway. So I did have an escape route. I'm not stupid enough to have myself locked into a building where there's a possibility of getting hurt or injured, regardless of whether it's paranormal or just plain stupidity of walking into something, especially, which happens quite a lot, especially in the dark. So that's pretty much your answer on that one.
Mike, is that something that you would do? Would you go into a building alone?
Yes, I would go into a building alone.
Yeah, right. Remember O'Keefe Ranch?
I still did it. Yes, I would. I react a little different than the old folks because I'm a little younger and a lot newer than them. But do I recommend newbies doing that? No, because they won't know how to handle a situation if something happens, or they may not have learned how to be properly grounded or protected. It's like achievement unlocked advanced.
I think a lot of it has a lot to do with not being able to distinguish the signs where there's a good possibility something's going to happen real quick. That comes with experience. I'm not saying that the new investigators don't have that ability to know when something's about to happen or something's going to go wrong. That's built into everyone's human intuition as a kind of a defense mechanism. So I don't know. I don't think anyone who's brand new to it, who has never been out on an investigation, should ever investigate alone. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have someone to back you up as well. If something happens, they can verify that something happened to you, regardless of you saying, hey, I just got bitten or I just got scratched, without actually having someone there as a backup witness.
Derek, what do you think? Do you think that people should be careful with what they are getting themselves involved with, because for the most out there, they don't really understand. What they think they know compared to what they know is a lot different.
Well, when I was a kid, I was living on the farm, and you don't have lights everywhere. If you're walking in the dark to go to the barn, you walk in the dark. Sometimes you never had a flashlight, but you got used to it. And you got used to not being scared. You got used to thinking, okay, well, And when I was younger, I used to walk into town, 3 or 4 miles from town, and walk down the gravel road outside the city, you're walking in the dark 3 or 4 in the morning. So you get used to doing all of that. Your body gets used to what's around your surroundings. But when you get a person that's living in the city limits and has never experienced walking in the dark, I mean, sure, you walk in the dark in your house, but because you already know you feel safe. But are you willing to walk in the dark and walk into the bush, for example, by yourself without a flashlight? Or if you did have a small flashlight, walk into the bush and stay there. And stay there for at least an hour or two and see, and like you don't do nothing, just sit quietly by yourself and just listen. And would you be able to handle it? And then if you did walk into a house, would you be that's empty? I mean, there are abandoned houses that do exist. They're old farm pieces. And get out of your vehicle, park inside the road, walk in some of these old buildings. Let's just sit there. If you can handle that, then you can prepare yourself. But if you've never done it before, I don't recommend it, because you can actually, if you decide to scare yourself and you can run out and bang your walk and crash into the door or crash into the wall, and if you're with somebody else, you're going to end up hurting yourself, or somebody's going to get hurt. So you have to be very, very careful. It takes a long time to get used to the idea of having to experience, do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Randy, I bring you in here now, if you don't mind, in regards to it. There's a lot of detail that goes into investigating a place on your own, especially when we see people who are going into places where maybe it is a darker type of spirit. Do you think people, Randy, really engage in the dangers of this, or is it some sort of thrill for a lot of these guys who are doing this?
Well, especially for the newbies, it's a thrill. You're going to look for spooky. So I'm going to look for spooky, and I'm going to tell the ghost off or whatnot. They're not understanding, what could happen when you walk into a vile situation or something that you're not protected. You don't understand the Bible. You don't understand a deity. You don't understand what sage is. And you don't do your research. You go in there for a thrill, and the next thing you know, you wake up and feel suicidal, or you wake through, we witnessed this on one of the shows where a seasoned investigator was in Virginia, and they had to go to John Zaffis for a exorcism. And that was somebody who was experienced. When we get into this field, we need, as a newbie, to go do our research. And that's part of the problem. And I get back again with the word standard and standards organization. I set supernatural standards up so people could focus and go to the website and say, what do I do? How do I start an investigation? My friend Chad Stanball wrote a book from Fresno, California, on the A to Z of paranormal investigating. So the question here to the newbie is, what do you do? Well, I want to go find out something. Shouldn't we start a organization inside to say, listen, this is how we do things to bring documentation. I deal with an organization from Minneapolis, I think. His name is Kevin Clayton, who is one of the great people of one of the great paranormal teams that also they cook. And they come together with the beginning documentation and documentation of standards that when you walk in as a newbie, you understand what you're looking at, the documentation of the equipment, the documentation of what you're supposed to do, and the ending documentation, just like a company or corporation. So when they're coming in and out, I also deal with an organization called the Alabama Spectral Investigators. They also provide the same sort of repartee. So in my case, when I talk to newbies, I talk to them, they went to see Ghostbusters this past summer, and now they want to try it. Well, I don't suggest it, especially the youth. We were in the process of teaching children. I had a 14-year-old on my show who is clairvoyant and who is a pagan. And he was taking other kids out into the field for fun. But he wasn't grounding them. So now there could be problems galore. So children were teaching children this sort of newbie orientation. So what my recommendation is to come get a standards book or some sort of beginning book. Am I all wet on this subject? Am I standing out in left field, gentlemen, on this? Or am I trying to get someplace where we all can come together and sit down at the same table?
No, I think you're pretty much bang on.
Yeah, I agree. You're bang on. We have the new people shadow us, like shadow the more seasoned people until they feel comfortable. We don't even give them gear to play with until they're comfortable.
We've had a couple young boys come with us, and that are 12 years old. But we've also give them guidance, show them what they let them know ahead of time what to expect, and if they're feeling certain feelings about that doesn't feel right, to inform us. And we always kept an eye on those young ones. But we've always, and Glenn can tell you, Mike can tell you, we always did our prayer protection before we walked in. Because, and even after we're done our investigation, we go, again, we do the cleansing, because if you don't, we don't know what we're carrying with ourselves back home. And there has been times where even ourselves as experiencers that have dealt with depression or dealt with short-temperedness or dealt with, I don't know why I feel sick, and so, but once you deal with it, once you learn to fix it and be aware of it, then we're one step ahead of it.
So when you get children involved, what should be the age? At what point do you say a child is mature enough, Derek?
A funny thing, I was very fortunate. I've actually been noticing a lot of young boys that are between 10 and 12 years old. They're studying how to be paranormal investigators. They watched every show that's on TV. They find it so exciting to them that we are their heroes. And I was quite floored on that, because when they asked us if they can come with us on an investigation, Glenn and I had to make sure that their moms came with us to make sure that they're okay, that they're ready to come. And if they signed an affidavit,
a waiver,
signed a waiver, then things are fine. But if they didn't sign a waiver, we wouldn't take them with us. So we make sure that we're protected and they're taken care of and they're protected.
Mm-hmm. Randy, are you in favor of youngsters getting involved in the paranormal?
Yes, I am, to the point where, I'm walking a different line here. And the line where I'm coming from is I'm a born-again paranormal investigator, and I believe in Christ and I believe in education. Now, here, let me explain to the audience where a lie starts. Now, a lie starts when you walk into a church and a pastor says, "Have you ever investigated the paranormal?" And you say no. Well, that's a lie. We begin to play this satanic game in church and play these lie after lie after lie. So by the time we're done becoming a seasoned investigator, we have alienated ourselves through the religious community we're trying to come up to. So I want to educate and go into churches and teach children the proper version, or I call it the proper morality, of the word paranormal. And that's a major, major quagmire. Because if we don't teach children, how are they going to learn? I mean, we talked to them about the crucifixion. We talked to them about Santa. We talked about them to the birds and the bees. What is wrong with education in the paranormal? In the local area, I was going to try to bring children, educating children, and getting teams in where I was going to bring in several people via Skype to try to educate children. Children need to understand this field. And when they see it on television, they're going out to find spooky, and they don't care. And when they get possessed, that's the problem. Now, what happens next? Prayer protection? Do I take a fifth grader, a third grader out there into the field who has an interest? And in the local area, once again, children go to these haunted locations for their spooky time, whether it's Fort Mifflin, Eastern State, or Penhurst. And they show up there with their parents, and they enjoy themselves, and they go home. There is no disclaimer that a child cannot participate. There is no disclaimer that says you need to be 12. There's nothing at all. So the answer, Dave, in my opinion, would be yes. We need to educate our youth to the proper tone. But I've had people disagree with me on that.
But the problem is not the children, it's the parents. Because maybe the parents aren't believers. Maybe the parents are like, well, he has his interest after watching the shows. What could it hurt? I really don't believe in this stuff. Randy, it goes down that entire road, right? Whose responsibility is it? Do you sign a waiver like Glenn and the Chronicles team have made people do? Or do you just give your child some gear and say, well, at least he's not out hanging out at the corner store or raising hell on the streets with his skateboard or bicycle?
Well, let's first look at the logistics part of this. Logistics say from a website at, say, ghoststop.com, is there any disclaimer that says you have to be above 12 years old to purchase? No, there isn't. In the documentation, the books, and the television show, it doesn't say if you're 13 years old, turn this off immediately. In this field, we don't take advantage of understanding that in legalities, there aren't any as of yet. It's what parents do or don't do. Well, most parents are naive when it comes to this. Their sons or daughter are having ghost hunting nights, so they're going to bring friends over. They're going to watch season 7 of Ghost Hunters. Then they're going to go to the backyards of the cemetery across the street and look for spooky and wait till the sun rises. And then they're going to review evidence and hang out together till they go back to elementary school or middle school. Now, is there anything wrong with that? Not in my eyes. But if we educate children in the right area of morality and teach them the correct version of what they're doing, teams like you have right now with Glenn and everybody else there, it's going to make their show better. It's going to make them a lot more understanding with youth, and give youth an opportunity to participate, not only with the waivers that the parents have to sign, but they'll have an understanding that Glenn and Derek, and Mike won't have to cover them and protect them and not protect themselves. But once again, that's just my personal opinion I've talked about for the last 5 years. I gave computers to underprivileged children. I gave 2,155 computers out, and I've talked to children on the streets about this, and they're hungry for this. And Dave, if they're hungry, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to do it whether the parents like it or not. So I would like to get that supernatural standard and incorporate children, bring children in, because I have teachers ready to teach children. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong, but I think you're looking at things with rose-colored sunglasses on. And I'll be blunt and say that. I want what you are saying. I think that's brilliant with what you were saying. But the problem is we don't have enough people and parents alike to say, well, maybe is there a school for this? Just go buy him a couple of things. He needs a voice recorder. He needs a little digital camera. Let him go play in the cemetery for a couple of hours or buy the spooky house over there. That's what's happening. And these kids are learning off of the television. And we've talked ad nauseum, a plethora of times. Mike, as I bring you in on this, we've talked a plethora of times about the lack of experience and the lack of education in this field. And yes, Randy has a good idea that areas should set up. Maybe the Chronicles or the Canadian Paranormal Society sets up a ghost school. Maybe that's what needs to be done. But for the most part, unless these television shows start dropping like flies, the kids aren't going to get any sort of education on what they should be doing. Mike, this is where you speak.
Okay, I was just waiting for you to say my name again. I don't know. I've been, quote-unquote, playing with the paranormal since I was little, and I turned out okay. I have done the graveyards. I've dabbled with a Ouija back in the day. I always played safe. Do I think there's resources for a paranormal school? No. Do I think kids should be allowed to go on every investigation? No. I think it should be a case by case or kid by kid situation based on the maturity level of the kid with their parent. Because you don't want a kid acting like immature and whatnot while you're trying to conduct an investigation. Glenn has a pretty good story from when we were on the Sycamoose when we did a charity event. He had a pretty good connection with a a kid who wants so bad to be a ghost hunter, and brought his mom. We were doing a charity event on a paddle wheel boat up in the interior, and this kid so bad wants to be a ghost hunter. He brought a skeptic mom and skeptic sister, and by the end of the night, the skeptics turned into believers based on the experiences they had. Glenn, you were in charge of that group, correct?
Yeah, it was. It was kind of different. This is probably our third visit to the Sigamoose in a few months. So we already knew what kind of evidence we were going to be picking up there originally, before we even announced the fundraiser. The fundraiser turned out really well. We had about 19 people show up. 4 investigators there at the time, with a couple of our members from the Canadian Paranormal Society show up and give us a hand with shooting some of this stuff. The child in question, he was interviewed at length by me prior to the investigation, as well as his parents. I had a rough idea. I got a grasp on they wanted him to have this investigation, as it was his 13th birthday that particular day. And with being a huge ghost hunter fan, he wanted to tag along. After assessing the situation, decided he was confident enough to, as long as he stayed within arm's length of me at all times. Didn't have an issue with that. He did get to experience something downstairs, as well as his parents. So all in all, everyone left with a good feeling at the end of the day. And as Derek mentioned earlier, we made sure that every member that was on that ship that night for the investigation was cleansed at the end of the evening with sage.
Joe has a good question here in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He says, what if an evil entity attached itself to a child? Whose fault is that? Derek, let's take you on that one.
Well, number one, evil entities can't work on kids that easily, except there was only one that was actually absorbed many, many years ago back in Germany. But there's a different story compared to that one. But other than that, I've seldom ever come across a child that would ever become possessed or even attacked by an evil entity. I've dealt with one myself when I was a kid, when I was 10, and all the evil entities like to do is scare the crap out of you, but they already know they can't possess you because you're called an innocent. The time that they go after you is when you're an adult. That's what I've experienced when I was a kid growing up. And unless anybody else says different, I don't feel that an evil entity will ever attack a child. It will try to possess a child and can try to control it in its mind, but not for long, because the child can't maintain consciousness that long. They don't focus because their mind is always constantly on the go. So it's not the same as an adult.
I gotta tell you guys right now, as Derek, you were speaking, I'm having some weird shit happen here. Weird stuff all of a sudden happening here. I'm getting like thumping and bumping all around me. It's happened twice. And when I pull my headphones out, I can't hear a thing. But when I put my headphones back in, all of a sudden I can hear it. It's happened twice now. Love when that stuff happens. I am goosebumping the heck out of myself right now. Life of a paranormal radio show. Glenn, you were going to respond?
I forgot where I was at. You kind of threw me off. I'm blaming you.
Well, in regards to children and entities.
I was going to say that possession generally takes a lengthy amount of time to occur. It's not just one of those things where, okay, all of a sudden you're possessed and your head's spinning around and you're puking green stuff. That doesn't occur. It takes months and months. There's 3 different stages to the final possession, which, like I say, do take a long time to occur. Chances are, child itself, they're easy to attach to because they're so innocent in a certain way that they're open to ideas. They're easily fooled, tricked by evil entities. But it's a rare occasion. I know you see all these TV shows out there that do reenactments of everyone who's been possessed as a child. Not necessarily so, and it's generally short-lived. Once the child reaches puberty, all that stuff goes out the window. They start becoming regular people, whereas they don't see anything anymore, they don't hear anything anymore. And that's my perception of it. We had that child with us. The child got to experience something. He went home at the end of the night, happy as pig shit because now he's just done a ghost adventures or ghost hunter style investigation with a team. So he was 100% with it. If even 2 weeks later, his parents get a hold of me, they sent me an email saying how much they really enjoyed the investigation. They kind of believed in it in the beginning. Their child was so happy that he attended. Just thanking us. It was kind of gushy, but it was nice of them to do that and spend the time to actually get back to us and tell us what's happening.
I'm very surprised that you say children aren't as susceptible. That one kind of blows me away, guys. I'm not going to lie. Because there is no way I would bring my middle daughter or even little SOR out to a paranormal investigation. Now, I will say this. When we went and did a client's house a couple weeks ago, I actually brought my 17, soon-to-be 18-year-old daughter. And what she picked up, because she is intuitive when she is on, what she picked up was incredible. And she actually asked me to leave the room while her and her boyfriend were in there, and they had a full 10-minute conversation with a spirit. Who's yelling?
What is that?
Did Derek trip? Did he hurt himself? Or was that Randy?
No, it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't me.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
The background said no.
No, that was kind of someone like kind of yelled in the background.
Yeah, there was a ghost in the background that says no.
I heard that. I absolutely heard that.
Yeah,
I heard no too, but show his mic.
Yeah, I've been on mute. I just unmuted it now.
That was very, very interesting. Derek, I swore that sounded like you.
No, it wasn't me, but it did say no. And the reason why I'm saying that, because sometimes people say, you think the foolish things. Like I was in my mind when you said, when her and her boyfriend decided to be alone in the room, and my first thought was like, yep, they're going to go kiss and that sort of thing. Because you think of a boyfriend and they go close the room and gonna. But you know what? These things do happen. There are kids out there that are more and more curious now than ever before, and they want to get their best friend to come with them and to experience it. And knowing that your daughter is intuitive, that's a good thing, because that gives her trust. That teaches her about intuition and trusts her about her trusting her own gut feeling when she gets out there and on her own in the world.
I do trust her. No, I don't know if I would trust a lot of people her age, because my daughter, as you've met her, she's an older soul. She is someone who's mature beyond her 17 years. So I do trust her. And just so you guys know, I'm getting responses in the chat rooms that other people heard that no as well.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if you could go ahead and ask the guys in the room there, but obviously they're responding already.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even put it past the possibility of just radio interference.
Or could it be a ghost? We don't know. But for kids investigating, I think it's a case-by-case, family-by-family. Like, I wouldn't just give Billy and Susie a Ouija board and say, go play in the forest. Like, when we had the minor come on an investigation with us, that was purely a charity event. And he was surrounded by his family.
I have a question from Bob, Derek, I'm going to get you to mute your mic for a second. I got a question from Bob here in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. And Randy, we'll start with you here for a second. Bob says, do people ever bring along dogs or cats with them in investigations to gauge their reactions? What do you think about that, Randy?
Absolutely. I have an American Staffordshire Terrier. Her name is Mrs. Paws. Mrs. Paws can see, and a lot of times we talk together, and she can see the entities on the other side and that come across the veil. So, yes, a pet in my world of investigation is absolutely appropriate. It enhances, and it sometimes Clover, Mrs. Paws, talks to him. So these genuine conversations, and sometimes these pets have crossed over who have been injured. My dog lets me know that she comes to my arms and actually says something's wrong. And then we try to talk to the pet, because when we think of this, we don't think of pets that crossed over. Mm-hmm. We think of human beings, where my dog could actually see other animals.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny with that because I was talking about animals with Jim Kolesnik from Vancouver Supernatural just on Saturday night. And we were talking about animals, and he was telling us a story about how they were in some field or in some farm, and he's like, I'm surprised we never pick up any deceased animals. And when he played the EVP tape back, he actually got a cow mooing right after he said that. So the animal spirits are there as well. Glenn, I'm going to ask you about that same question. Would you ever bring any animals, like a cat or a dog, on an investigation as a tool?
Yeah, I've had a bear on a few investigations with me over the years. It is kind of interesting to see their reactions, especially when you're picking the same sort of energy up with an EMF gauge. So it's beneficial because they can see, they can hear way better than we can. It's just like having a living version of an infrared camera with you.
Mike, you work with dogs on a daily basis. You work with animals on a daily basis with what you do. Would you ever take one of your dogs on an investigation?
Absolutely, I would. I believe the animals can, or my dogs. Well, my dogs are kind of special, but I think, I think it'd be like Glenn said, in a human, human. Wow, getting late. Yes, I would. Kind of like a dog EMF detector.
Derek?
And I actually picked up an EVP at Barkerville of pigs squealing.
Oh, so many things to say right there. So many things to say. Derek, we bring you in. What do you...
Well, just say it. Squeal.
You're a fun boy. You know the sound. Squeal.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say
but
it.
There's also a pet cemetery very close to my house I would like to investigate. I've never done a pet cemetery.
That's Stephen King.
That is totally Stephen King.
Totally Stephen King.
But there's a legit pet cemetery where there's gravestones and headstones and everything there.
Derek, what do you think about pets?
Well, I would not bring a cow because that would be utterly ridiculous.
I got that joke. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like pulling teats. Actually, you're talking to an old dairy farmer. So, anyways, a lot of farming jokes. Would I bring a dog or cat? I've never really tried, but I can tell you this: that whenever I've been to any investigations, and Glenn and Mike would vouch for that. That whenever we go to investigation, if somebody may have had a dog or a cat in their house, and those animals will at times will freak out or stare at the corner, and they don't know why they're staring at the corner. And at times, you already pretty well get an idea that there's actually something in the house. Or they get freaked out and they'll bark at it, and you're thinking, well, why is this dog barking at the corner? Why is the cat freaking out? Why is it just start to hiss and spit and everything? There's nobody there and physically in the room. So yeah, animals are really like radar. They pretty well can pick things up or sense things because their sensitivities are way far higher than ours.
I do have to agree with you on that one because my dog, Doug. I'm getting some feedback, Derek. Sorry. My dog, Doug, actually will pick up on things in our house. And he just stares. It's like he's so used to it now. He just stares. And I never see anything because very rarely do I actually get to see something cool anymore. But my wife sees quite a bit. And she sees everything from hazes to clouds to eyes to everything. She is just turning out to be one heck of a lightning rod when it comes to this sort of seeing. And it doesn't really surprise me because she is so empathic. But dogs, along with small children, will actually see things. And the Chronicles team, I didn't tell you guys this story, but recently the little guy was staring off, and you guys have been to my house, so you know where the stairway is. You come up the stairs into the kitchen, then there's the hallway to go to the bedrooms and the front door. When he was staring off into that doorway. He was just gazing. And Jolene, when she went out to look, or she caught him staring out, and when she looked at the door, there was like this purplish blue haze around, and that's where she saw the alien-type eyes kind of just standing there in the purplish haze. So now my 3-year-old is starting to see things as well. But that should be no surprise, considering how strange the family is at times. You know what I'm saying? Glenn?
Strange families.
Yes. There is no reason why it shouldn't be passed down from generation to generation. Like I said, my grandmother had it, my mother had it. I kind of had it when I was born, which was taken away temporarily. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be passed on from generation to generation. It's just a gift. It's a gift that sometimes needs to be worked on. It's not just something that magically appears, even though as a child it does appear that way. But the amount of work that takes, like Derek's the prime suspect right here, when it comes to explaining how much time it takes to do what he does as a medium. It's not just a case of just showing up. There's a lot of work involved.
Yeah, I had to explain myself. But, Glenn doesn't realize how talented he is himself, and he says, he'll deny his gift he says his mom helped him turn it off. No, he didn't. People don't help you turn it off. You are believing they turned it off, but it's going, because Glenn, there's times I've seen Glenn get freaking weirded on us, and then next thing you know, he goes, "Oh, there's something here," and I know it because I caught him doing it at Merritt.
Mike, what do you think?
You're not done, bud.
Yeah, I know.
Repeat the question, Dave.
Just in regards to seeing things, should we trust that intuition a little bit more? Because there's a lot of people who are very connected and very intuitive, maybe not psychic medium, but still intuitive enough where they need to be able to have confirmation that they are seeing what they were seeing. I would suggest I'm like that. But the one thing that I have learned over time is if I see something out of the corner of my eye, I actually saw what I believe I saw. And I have had to learn to trust that intuition. Do you think a lot more people would see more if they believed what they were looking at out of the corner of their eye?
Yes, I do. I have a pretty good example. The other night I had a buddy over and I was showing him the Chronicles stuff. He's very not into the ghost paranormal stuff. He thinks it's weird and doesn't even like to talk about it. And then I find he finally started to open up. And he said he kind of, when he was little, would see shadow men in his house, and ever since then he's turned it off and doesn't believe in it. But he wouldn't give a reason in why he doesn't believe it, except for that it's weird and people shouldn't do that sort of stuff. But I think if you have that sixth sense, I think it benefits you. It's like a hidden skill, so to speak. So I say embrace it and learn about it, take it and run with it.
I think a lot of guys that have been in this field a while actually become more intuitive as they go. It's generally because we're surrounded by it on a constant basis and we're looking for it, as opposed to your average Joe who's not looking for it, so to speak. So I think with being in the field, your ability to enhance that extra sense does actually occur.
I've been chatting with a friend of mine during this show as well, and she lives up here in my area. And every night, and Derek, we'll start with you on this one, every night she suffers from insomnia quite a bit. She's a very light sleeper, but every night she gets noise blasting into her ears. Okay, from high-pitched sounds to music to people's voices. Now, she knows she's clairvoyant. She just is refusing to open up or is a little too timid to open up. What would someone like that do, Derek, to kind of quell the noise that is going on?
That's hard to say because everybody experiences spirit differently. And also our intuition, our mind is thinking different things as we are, laying down or sitting up, and you've got things in your mind. And yes, you may hear sounds, that sort of thing. But those are some of the openings, some of the sounds that we hear. Also, if we do have a lot of electrical current going through our house, like the buzzing sound, that can also create us to or hear the humming sound. We have our energy in our body actually has a tendency as a sensor. Because everyone goes through that. You can hear a whistle in your ear or a high pitched sound, but it doesn't last very long. Maybe just a few seconds. What that is about is actually your energy is learning to raise a vibration to the next level to communicate with the spirit on the other side. But they're also teaching you slowly and showing you how to use your skill. So knowingly, if she herself have been practicing as a clairvoyant or practicing as a healer, your extrasensory perceptions actually begin to pick up even more. You become more sensitive. And so the more you practice, the stronger it becomes. The less you practice it, it's not as much there with you, but the more she really wants to learn. So now Spirit's saying, okay, if you want to learn this, then we're going to give you some more exercises, more tests. And so we start putting the sound test in. And that happened to me when I was young growing up. I started going through all the sounds and the senses and the emotional feelings coming from everything from my chest to my thoughts and their peripheral view on my left side or my right side, depending on where I'm feeling that sensitivity. Your spider sense is tingling, so to speak. To get in those senses, your fingers begin to tingle because your body is starting to go through a lot of emotional, physical, and mental shifting, and you're basically going through the awakening, and everyone goes through that. And depending how much she wants to learn, or if she wants to take it slow, then she'll take it slow. If she wants to go a bit faster, it depends on each individual. Everybody goes through different types of exercises.
Mm-hmm. Can she be cleared? Derek, if you don't mind, can she be cleared?
She can clear it on her own, easily. All she has to do is just recognize it. She'll just have to basically say, okay, I understand you're trying to teach me, and you're trying to send me energy. I appreciate it, and I accept this, and that's it. If she feels that it's too much too often, she could be dealing with some inner ear issues. So it depends on every individual. But it should never affect her health whatsoever.
Let's bring you in, Randy, while we have the opportunity to do so here. Do you believe that psychic mediums are an important tool to paranormal investigation? Do we have Randy with us?
He's had some microphone problems.
Yes. We'll get to that question later on then. Glenn, I want to follow up with you on Derek's answer in regards to my friend Hilda here, who was having some issues with some noise that continues on a night-in, night-out basis for her. Now, I will say this. I have investigated her house. Her house is very haunted. She had a female spirit in her daughter's room. I was able to clear her out. But there is probably 2 or 3 others in there that are bothering her home. Actually, I want to get you guys, when you guys are up here next, to go over there with me.
Sure, we can do that.
But when she is hearing all of this herself, and she knows that it's attached to her and not everybody else, how can she battle that on her own if she doesn't know what to do?
Her best bet is to contact a team like us or any team in her area and ask for some advice, some help. Even if she's a religious person, go to the local church, speak to a priest, see if he can give you some bless the house or bless yourself or whatever. It's not necessarily a case of we've had a lot of people contact us over the last little while that seem genuine right off the bat until you start delving into their past, where some have had some sort of mental illness or drug addiction, or alcoholism, whatever, manic depressive. It's not necessarily, like you said, you've already cleared one lady from the house, and she's still worried about the other three. One clearing doesn't necessarily remove everything at once. It may take 3, maybe 4 different visits before things start to loosen up a little bit. You get your teeth in there and you start biting a little nibble until you actually start pushing them out. When it comes to cleansings for us, when we do smudges in an interior building, we leave windows and doors open to give them an opportunity to have some sort of escape route. And we have been known to actually back them into a corner occasionally, which is not overly pleasant. But that does occur as well.
Well, we're definitely going to have to hit up Hilda's house, that's for sure. Definitely going to have to do that. Randy, do we got you now?
Okay, let's find out.
I hear you.
Is that better for you?
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah, I had some issues, so I switched around. Where do you want to start? Back at the psychic medium?
Yeah, let's get to the psychic medium question, because I believe they are an important tool on an investigation. There's a lot of people out there who think they're scientists who believe that, oh, no, we can't have a medium there. They absolutely hex a location.
To answer that question, the answer would be depending on the investigation and, the reason for it. The psychic medium is a very important access tool that you can use for a measuring statistic. So, really, to get down to the brass tacks, should we have one? To me, it depends on the case-by-case basis. Should we have one 100% of the time? I don't think so, because it depends on the applicability we need them for. But, I've been working with local ones here, with local investigations, especially with children missing and whatnot. So they prove their validity. In some of the investigations, they prove 100% their validity.
I'm a firm believer that it is a fantastic tool to have. And Derek is one of the most talented that I've ever met. And I really believe that they are someone who could absolutely enhance any type of investigation. I just find it very funny, Randy, when we have people going out there and say, oh, no, we don't have psychics coming on board. We're scientific. We do everything scientific. You know what I'm saying? You've heard them. You've talked to them.
Absolutely. And we go back to this chicken and the egg principle again, over and over and over again. Life and death is a very complicated process. And, and I know you had posted that, scientific dissertations versus you can't put a ghost in a petri dish. You can't do measuring statistics. And when you're dealing with people like psychic mediums, you need to look at credentials and look how you're working with them. Once again, this is a pseudoscience, or a inapplicable way of proving things, because, these great guests of this great show they're producing there in Canada, they're producing quality evidence. But my question here is, if I take it down to something in the state of Pennsylvania, how can I statistically measure it? And, when we get down to where we're on, that big circle again, is how do I sit here and measure apple to an orange or an orange to an apple? And in this stuff, the applicability of this, and I know you can't stand that word scientific investigation. If I record a microphone EVP session, that's not scientific. That's not scientific. I can't write a science. I'm not going to write a research paper based upon an EVP session.
It just doesn't work.
No,
come on, come on. Mike Wood.
I'm not smart enough to write a scientific paper, man. That's why I use all the tools.
Let's get to a question from Joe here. And Glenn, we'll start with you on it. Joe is asking, would it be possible that a psychic medium could bring a spirit with them to a ghost hunt?
Oh, more than likely. Derek's brought a couple with him, but it's generally his guardian angel that's taking care of us. It is it's a possibility for any of us who do paranormal investigation to bring something with us to an investigation and dump it off. That's why we spend a lot of time on our own personal protection. It's just key for us. Because we've done it ourselves where we've taken something home and shit's hit the fan. And we've had to do cleansings in our own places. So it's not unusual. Like the first thing a new investigator asks me, so what piece of equipment do you think is the best thing I could possibly get to learn about the paranormal, to actually investigate? I suggested a library card or an extensive ability to use Google. Those are the tools. People just don't bother to pick up a book anymore. They get all their information on the methodology, the equipment, and everything from what they see on TV.
And I understand that, but Derek, if you've brought spirit into a paranormal investigation, how do you know that they're not the ones speaking to you rather than the ones that are supposed to be on location?
My guides are the ones that actually help me recognize who's there. And so then spirit, a lot of times too, those persons that are person or persons are actually on location or say are haunting the place before I got there. At times they want to let themselves be known who they are. And if they want to talk, at times what they'll end up doing is taking me over. And so I become that person. And it's been, people have proven, I've proven that that I become that person. Like they'll recognize a person's voice, or recognize a person's movements and gestures, what they like when they were alive. I act like them. I become them. And sometimes they'll hear that person's voice that sounds just like their father, grandfather, or somebody from the past. So that's happened before. That's called a trance medium. So not everybody can do that. And there's times that they tend to control me or take me too controlled, and I end up I don't know. The guys told me I collapse after. So
hold that thought, gentlemen. We are going to go to a break here on the mighty SOR. You're listening to Space Out Radio, hour number 3 of Chronicles, and with Randy Plessor coming up right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Space Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to the Mighty SOR tonight. As we continue on with some paranormal chatter on Spaced Out Radio, we'll bring our panel back in here momentarily. But before we do, I do want to remind you tomorrow night on the show we are talking Bigfoot. Samantha Ritchie will be with us from Washington State. We are going to talk about Sasquatch. I love me some Sasquatch shows, and it'll be a good one tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Hey, if you're listening in on United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 160 countries around the world, thank you so much for tuning us in. We muchly appreciate it. Same as if you're listening in on Revolution Radio. Remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ovoviviparousness. Ovoviviparousness. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but what the hell. It's a long one. He went to throw me off. Last week he gave me a bunch of gimmies. This week he's going to be roughneck leading into Christmas. So I do appreciate it. Bill sets the password for the SOR Space Travelers Club each and every night. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, I'm on LinkedIn now. So, write a review of Spaced Out Radio if you're on LinkedIn. Follow me up there. Let's connect and go with it. You can follow me on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. And remember, if you're listening in and you are participating on Twitter, use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio in order for us to get in contact with you. We bring in the panel of Glenn Ferguson, Derek White, Sky Cloud, Mike Morin from Chronicles of the Unknown, and Randy Plessor from Z-Talk Radio. The crowd is going wild for you guys tonight.
Cool.
Way to be excited, Glenn.
Sorry, man.
I just found out something real. Mike was telling me he wasn't feeling very good. He said he may be sick, and we just found out what it is. It's called ovoviviparousness.
Well, there you go.
Mike, you may have that virus.
I do not have eggs inside me and attaching into a thing.
Oh, you might, though. You might, though.
Truth. I've been thinking all night how to use that word, but Derek beat me to it.
Wow. I'm not even going to try and throw that in a sentence. Not even going to try. But we're going to just stick right away from that. Anyhow, it's Christmas time. This is the lead up to Christmas. And a lot of people who have either lost loved ones around this time of year or this year or in years previous, they get a little sullen and a little sad in regards to those who are no longer with us. And really, who can blame any of them? And some, the pain just never goes away. For others, the pain is so fresh that, they just wanted that one more moment to say, hi, how are you? Derek, I'm going to start with you on this one, if you don't mind. At Christmas time, while we're thinking of our loved ones who are no longer with us, do they come around?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The cool part of it is, when you start thinking about your parents or your grandparents or how much you used to enjoy Christmas so much when you were a kid, and you start reminiscing that childhood of your own, and then you start thinking, maybe I should trim the tree better than I used to. My father or my mother used to like it more this way, or do something that your grandparents used to do for you. Or I remember my dad, him and I, when we used to go we didn't go buy a tree. We used to go to the bush and go get the tree. That was, my father always said, a real true Christmas is when you actually went out to the bush and got your own tree because you chose what you feel would be considered as real homemade Christmas. And my father would tell me, he said, son, this is your choice. Which one do you want? And so him and I would say, you're giving me this opportunity to have this tree, Dad? He goes, yep, you choose one. So I would say, well, how about that one? He said, great idea. Here, good one. He says, here, you take the sweet saw, and he says, you cut it. And he'd always give me a hand to use it. But we went home with that tree, and whenever I come home with a fresh tree after my father passed away, it reminds me of my father, and then I can hear a soft word over my shoulder from my dad. He said, it looks good. And my father always loved Christmases, celebrating Christmas, because it reminded him that it didn't always mean that, what you see in stores, that everybody is buying gifts and that sort of thing, my mother always said that the most important part is family coming together. And when you start thinking about your parents or think about loved ones that you've lost in your life, that part always lets you know there's always a good person, or there's always someone that's passed away that always lets you know that they're close by. Now, I want to tell you something personal. I don't do readings on Dave's show, but I want to tell Dave this right now. Dave, there's actually someone here who's bugging the living heck out of me, who actually is a veteran that passed away. He was in the military, so somebody either in your studio, in your home, wants to say hello to Dave.
Oh, well, hello.
Okay.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He was part of the Canadian Armed Forces, because I'm seeing the mixture that, have the camouflage type of clothing, which is a Canadian Armed Force. But he actually wants to say hello to you guys. And so the military that have also not to forget about them, that we're always remembering them and the loss of their lives.
Well, I know it's not a family member because I've had nobody serve in my family.
Yeah. So probably someone in your studio.
Well, maybe that was the voice we heard.
One of your listeners.
Could very much be. We have a lot of Canadian people who listen to this show. No? That is cool. Randy, let's get your opinion on that. Is Randy with us?
I'm with this. What I'm doing right now, I'm looking over a story that I wrote called Mrs. Paws and the Alaskan Railroad. And I think so much of Christmas, since I just lost my dad very recently, that we spend so much time doing so much. One of the things my father has always taught me, and this is what it's going to follow through in my life, is when you move forward in your life, remember who you are and what you are. And it's a lesson that I learned that I wrote into my story. If you can find it actually on the Ghostly Activations radio show, it's worldwide, and some of your listeners might have actually read it. It has over 21,000 hits. Santa is delivering toys with steam locomotives. And I think as we take a look at Christmas, especially, my father's spirit is actually next to me. And I talked to my dad today, and my dad lectured me about something. And it gets very hard sometimes, but my father is a part of me and part of all of this. And I thanked those people like Lorraine Warren who have taught me about the paranormal. It gives me that another extension, by the way, for Christmas. So I can get out the steam engines and talk about loading the cars up and delivering medicines and writing these fictional short stories about the mythical bridge across the pond and about Christmas. And it really does.
Your microphone was breaking up a little bit there, Randy.
Okay, I said it brings it up. It brings it a little bit more closer. This Christmas time, I miss my dad very dearly, and my dad communicated via steam locomotives when I was a child. I started around steam locomotives, and I was working around steam engines this past year. And when it concerns all of this, my father's body died. But I'm seeing my father back and forth, and my father was actually yelling at me today. So, I believe very much in the beautiful times of Christmas. But there's one thing my father taught me. Never give up. Never give up. And it's a tremendous, tremendous, lesson, Dave, I'm learning as I grow older. My father's sitting next to me now.
Can you see him?
At times I can. And he always tells me no at times because he always loved to save money. He always used to love, he was an engineer. He designed trucks. His last truck he designed was the front discharge mixer. And at times I can see him and smell him. And I carry him next to my heart and my soul.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible story, my friend.
Thank you. The story is there. Like I said, everybody wants to read it. It's Mrs. Paws and the Alaskan Railroad. I wrote it last year. It has many hits out there. And I would like to come visit Canada and visit some of the steam engines up there and ride some of the Royal Hudsons and whatnot and come up and enjoy some of the beautiful countrysides up there, because you folks have a beautiful sign of Christmas. And I'll tell you what, I miss my dad very much. But there's one thing he did want to tell me, and I'll tell you. Never stop trying. Thanks, Dave.
Not a problem. Glenn, do you have any family stories of hauntings or paranormal experiences over the holidays?
Not so much. I feel my relatives a lot closer to me that have passed on at this time of year. I don't know it's because I'm thinking of them because of memories, or it's always been that time of year for me where the families always got together. It's been always big between my family and Janessa's family. So for the have them gather with us, even though they passed on, is not out of the unusual or unordinary.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Mike?
No, I don't have any paranormal stories regarding Christmas. My mom passed away years ago, and I do feel her presence a lot around the holiday season, but nothing to write home about. No, nothing for me. I'm too busy with a little one.
Mm-hmm. I'm lucky as well. I have not had any family experience come up to me in regards to anything that has happened over the holidays. Maybe I'm lucky. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just not picking up on anything. But, you know, for people out there, Derek, who have the feeling that their loved ones are there over the holidays, is Christmas, for lack of a better term in your opinion, a good time to do a paranormal investigation at your house?
Oh, I can't see why not. You know, like, yeah, I can't see why not. No matter what kind of a holiday or what kind of a celebration you have, there's always something that I find that would be interesting. I mean, people go Halloween; they'll investigate on Halloween, so why not at Christmas time?
I think a lot of people would think it's some sort of taboo there, my friend.
Well, where the taboo come in? I mean, yes, you may have some people will have a certain belief system in their life, but if someone asked me, Derek, can you come out Christmas Day and do an investigation at our house? And if it was all okay, everybody said it was okay, I'd go out there, yeah.
Randy, what do you think? Do you think Christmas time would be a good time to do a paranormal investigation to get in touch with your loved ones?
Absolutely. You know, when we sit around fire and families are going to argue about old arguments that they did when they were 12 and 11, you know, in a based investigation to look for Grandpa, or look for Uncle Sid, or a little one that has passed on, can unite a family in ways that if we can get something, just one little glimpse, you know, that would make and enrich to knowing that we could say, I love you, that just one time. Because, you know, Christmas time in America is a time where we come apart here in America, where we fight and we come up with arguments. A paranormal investigation could unite a family and bring together instead of destroying.
Mm-hmm. I would normally agree with that. I had a situation a couple months ago where a good buddy of mine passed away. And I saw everything that happened after he had crossed. And he wasn't in a good place, and I've explained this on the phone or on this show. And recently, his niece and his mother got in touch with me to see if I had seen anything, and I was very hesitant to say something about it. And I decided, yes, I would say something to the niece. I never got into detail with Mom, didn't have the opportunity. Well, this past Friday, his brother, who happens to be his twin, called me up. And he's a little messed up with absolutely everything. And he was absolutely going off on me in regards to how I was freaking out the family, how I was causing a lot of heartache, how that I came out of the blue to discuss this with the family, which I did not, and I had to tell him the truth on that one, that they came to me. But it can go the other way as well. And I told the twin point blank, I said, I have no desire to do this. If you want me to shut up, all you got to do is ask, because they came to me, I didn't come to them. And there is a lot of pain surrounding this. So, Glenn, do you think a lot of people are accepting of this type of communication around the holidays? Because for some, the pain is still fresh. The pain is still right at the forefront.
I think it's better just to stick with the living on this particular holiday. It's a celebration of life as well. So I wouldn't recommend actually trying to communicate with anybody this time of year, even if we had a call in, unless it was an absolute emergency to go and help somebody out. We'd probably put it off until the beginning of the new year. It's just not one of those things that's done. Now, people kind of look at it as bad taste, thinking, oh yeah, you're using the holidays as kind of a way to promote yourself. It's not necessarily that way. We rarely promote ourselves with the Canadian Paranormal Society. The only promotion we do is just for the show, for Chronicles, and that's basically it. But no, I'm not a big fan of doing investigations this time of year period. I like to take a month off just to try and recharge the batteries and get started again.
Randy, what do you think?
It is this time of year. Like I said, in the States, we rip each other apart. In the next 5 to 7 days in the United States, there'll be suicides. There's going to be people not talking to one another. People will be drinking alcohol. There'll be more alcohol-related arrests in the next 7 days in America than there will be the rest of the year. This holiday is so bad in America that we don't talk about what we are angry about. We drink, we medicate, and we don't get into the problem. In some cases, a paranormal investigation for a family now could heal them to bring them to the understanding of where pain is. Why did Uncle Jim drink a gallon of vodka every Christmas? We go back to the jingle all the way principle, what I didn't get for Christmas. Christmas seems to be one of the worst times. And Glenn, when it comes to that, I agree with you. This is the worst time of year, of this time. But how do we try to help society understand human nature? They look at the paranormal as some sort of freakish nature, pseudoscience like a psychic. But when we get into this repartee of understanding that Christmas is magical, that we as human beings sever apart this time of year, don't you think we should try to come together to bring a family together that is splintered? What do you think?
Glenn, that was for you. Did we lose Glenn? Did he forget to turn his microphone on?
Yes, I did. Sorry about that. Yes and no. I can understand the family coming together to try and communicate with someone who's passed on, but not necessarily at the time of year when we're supposed to be sharing it and giving and a whole bunch of other stuff. It just doesn't seem right. People, I've been to so many family gatherings which have turned ugly at any time of the year. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas, where people have drank too much, things have got out of hand, arguments that have been brewing for years have popped up. It just doesn't seem to be a good time frame to actually try to communicate with somebody on the other side. Like I say, there's always the rest of the year to go ahead and try and do that if you want to get some sort of commitment between the family members to try and communicate. But then again, half the family may not believe in any of this crap anyway, so now you've created another argument which wasn't necessarily supposed to be there, but all of a sudden has turned up because we brought this subject up at Christmas.
Some of that, Glenn, I agree with. When we take a look at what we do at Christmas, Christmas is a different time of year, when it concerns throws alcohol and whatnot, because you don't deal with the symptom of Christmas. Christmas is depression. Everybody's going to enjoy next Monday, because next Monday, disappointment. Because, you see, one of the things that I've seen working with children is you give a child exactly what they want for Christmas. What is the next thing they're going to do after they get the gift they really want? They're going to look for another gift. A pastor preached a sermon called 90 Seconds to Disappointment. We're never happy. So therefore, on that paranormal side, we need to try to come to understand that when we're not happy, what are we unhappy about? For instance, you give me a brand new investigating computer. People are looking for other gifts and presents. So we're never satisfied for what we have. I love the camaraderie, what Dave brought here of our friendship. I love you as a friend. I think you're a great person. I think your team is great. And when it concerns Christmas, there's nothing I won't do. And yes, it's for the living, and I'm sitting there, and I'm a Christian, and I will pray. But I also watch families come apart, including my own. How do we deal with that? And to me, sometimes the paranormal fixes that in my case.
I think it's a like I say, a kind of case-to-case basis on how people perceive that. And I think there's going to be one court who says that should never be done. And then there's another court who believes that, I believe it would be a good way of bringing the family together at this time of year instead of everyone worrying about their own separate issues, which generally is the basis behind a lot of the arguments that occur at Christmas. If that makes any sense to you.
I tend to keep it light during the Christmas season because most people are on hairpin triggers with emotion, especially when you're couple days before the actual Christmas day. That's when resentment comes out and people are hypersensitive, thinking about past loved ones and all that sort of stuff. It's more poking a bear, I find. Well, it's just like in my area, that is.
I think it would also affect your ability to communicate as well with the level of stress that's put on you at that time of year.
Well, a ghost told me something a long time ago, and they said, you're never going to be happy until you solve your problem. And in March of this past year, I went back to the railroad. I went to the Delaware River Railroad and volunteered as a car host, working with steam locomotives. And I took the advice of somebody who passed on. And you know what? It was the best advice ever. I was ripped apart inside. I hated Christmas. I would sit and cry over Christmas. I hated it. I got a new appreciation of Christmas now because of what somebody told me on the other side of the veil. Beyond my mom and dad, I was warned that one day I'm going to be sitting here alone. On July 23rd, I was told I was going to lose one of my loved ones. It happened on November 16th, where I lost my dad. But when I look about, I volunteered 1,000 hours for the railroad. This is the one thing the spiritual and the paranormal world did for me personally. And I love it. And I love you, and I love Dave, and I love the team. And, this is the one thing we don't explain to people. What love is. What is love?
I'm thinking a good movie, Night at the Roxbury, for What is Love. Just saying.
You can start seeing me shaking my head back and forth. Dun, 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 dun.
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Don't
Yeah,
hurt me.
no more.
There we go.
You
there
got
we
it.
go. And you bring up a very valid point. I know I make fun of it a little bit there, Randy, but you're right. There isn't enough love out there for and respect for our loved ones. There isn't enough love and respect out there for the paranormal and the people in this field who are all striving so hard in order to make this, what we call pseudoscience, a reality in the mainstream, and to try and grab on to that acceptance of it. And Mike, I'm curious your thoughts on this. As we continue to push the envelope of the paranormal field, because we all want so badly these topics, these entities, this evidence to be taken seriously by mainstream science, what do you think mainstream science needs to see from groups like Chronicles of the Unknown in order to prove that there is life after death?
That's a good, complex question. I think science needs to relax and look at all angles, not just what they've been taught in their exact field. What is paranormal science? Is there a degree in it? No. It's all preference, really, be it a psychic or tools you use. Yeah, that's what I think about that.
Okay. Glenn, what's your thoughts on that?
What was the question again? Sorry, I lost it.
In regards to what we as paranormal investigators need to do for mainstream science to take this seriously.
Mainstream science is never going to take this seriously. Doesn't matter what we come up with. There's so much out there with the ability to operate editing programs now, CGI, whatever you want to use. There's a good possibility that even if we came up with the best evidence ever, it was sitting down, have a conversation directly with the spirit face to face, people would just rip it apart. And the science world isn't going to go off any basis that's not based on their original science concept.
Even if a scientist is there to observe something like that happen, they're going to think there is a scientific reasoning to why there's an entity in front of you or why there's that sound on your EPP machine. They're not going to think it's a ghost. They're automatically going to debunk it, which they need to relax on because our evidence is our evidence. It's real.
I understand that the evidence is real. However, science does have a point. We have to be able to prove without a reasonable doubt. And I think that evidence is there, but like Glenn said, I don't think they want to see it because it opens up too many Pandora's boxes as to everything from the religious context all the way to Darwin's theories of evolution. And if we start playing with that, well, that leaves a big hole in science's theories of what mankind is, how we got here, where we're from, absolutely everything. And it's weird because it is professionally known fact that the body does lose weight by ounces when a person dies. And it can culminate with thinking, well, it's the spirit leaving the body. That's what I tend to believe. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that tend to believe that as well. And Eric Markham has a comment for you, Glenn. He says, I don't think you are giving us scientists enough credit. And he's a scientist, by the way. And he's a firm believer in the paranormal and a paranormal investigator.
Well, there are ones out there that are scientifically based and a scientist in his own right. It'd be nice to have one of them attend an investigation with us, though. We've asked many to come along on investigations, and we've yet to receive at least one that would actually show up and give us a hand for a one-night thing.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. It's the same with skeptics. We've offered skeptics many times to come along with us on high-level investigations, one where activity is pretty much guaranteed for the evening. And yet again, it's a zero for the home team when it comes to having one of those guys on board with us.
But they will give their 2 cents.
Yes. Without attending.
Randy, what's your thoughts on that? Is his microphone on?
And every time I do this, I have to check this. I think the aliens are turning the microphones on and off. But
damn aliens, man! Always blame the aliens.
You know, we need to remeasure and remeasure and remeasure. God, pseudoscience, science, God, you know, Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, you know, when we're trying to look at what we're trying to look at, what are we trying to dissertate? You know, I like the word, you know, science. Science is applicable. But my father's death isn't applicable in science. We knew what he died from. And I'd wanted to save him. And you know, so having now gone to this personal nature and understanding the repartee of death, I can't take an EMF meeting by my father's head and say, hey, Dad, because I watched Dad walk out of his body. My dad looked at me and said, am I dead? And I said, Dad, you are. And he looked at me, and I'm in grief, and I'm watching my father walk back to his body and lay down, and lay down. He said, is your mother crying? Tell her to shut up. And I'm going, I can't do that, Dad. And my father, I actually hear an audible voice of my dad. They were married for 62 years. He died in a home in Allentown named of Manor Care. And having gone through this, we need to understand the science of human beings and how human beings are. Because my friend, Reverend Mark Hahnemann, talks about the majority of ghosts that we find are nothing but disguised demons that are evil. He spent 15 years in the Presbyterian Church. If you're interested, the book is called Seeing Ghosts Through God's Eyes. It's a very good book. But when we get down to it, we need to come up with some sort of statement and then come up with political theories we can test. Then I'll give it to Glenn and Derek and the team and Mike up there, and then they can try it and post. And in the next 30, 40 years, we're all going to die off, and then we pass our research on. We need to keep our research going and doing it and keep this applicability going that we can keep measuring it. We're never going to come up with that petri dish. And you know, when you had posted that, you got me thinking. The answer is yes. You know, scientific dissertation is a cool idea, but it's never going to happen. And we need to come up as a cohesive team, and we're going to come back to para-unity. Now, if you take notice, Dave, you brought us together. We haven't argued one bit about anything, have we?
No, we haven't, but because we all understand there's a bigger picture. Maybe that's the problem, is the people who are doing this is such a small de facto area that we aren't able to bring them out of the woodwork, so to speak. We aren't able to draw them out because everybody will tell you what they want to hear. And that's the problem with social media and the paranormal, is everybody will tell you what they want you to hear. But behind your back, the minute you're off the air or the minute you stop talking, there they are on their keyboard, tap, 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 tap. And they are going right at it. They are going right at it saying, can you believe that Randy or Derek or Mike or Glenn said this? That is absolutely ridiculous. That's not the way it works. You know, who do these guys think they are? And that's the way this whole system seems to work on a daily basis. I mean, Mike, you've seen it enough, even outside of social media.
Yeah, I would prefer to talk face-to-face instead of after-the-fact hearing it third-party. I think communication is key. Doesn't take much or whatnot to... It's not even confronting someone. If you have an issue or disagree, just say. It's not going to be World War III. It's just better to talk. I'm open. I think most people should be. Especially with the after-the-fact. I have a problem with that stuff.
But the problem is you don't know what's going to happen after the fact. You don't know if they're going to carve you a new one, if they are going to continue to, you know, twist your words. And granted, that is something that happens on a daily basis.
Oh, God, yes. Especially if, like, at my work, where I work, my words are twisted all the time because everyone is innocent, right? So...
Absolutely. Derek, I'd love you to weigh in on this, if you don't mind. Derek, turn your microphone on, please. Please, Derek.
I think it's the main event of WWE right now that he's watching.
It could be. It could be. Because you know how he is back in the old days of the Iron Sheik and the Camel Clutch.
I'm not going to say anything.
Going to break your back and make you humble, man. Actually, I shouldn't laugh. I just looked at my T-shirt, and I have a hashtag Team Sheiky Iron Sheik T-shirt on right now, so I shouldn't really laugh at that. Well, that's oddly coincidental. Glenn, what's your thoughts?
On what? Sorry, I was kind of walked away temporarily to take care of my dog.
Well, that's nice. In regards to the whole paranormal unity, as we round this thing back up, you know, we have too many people who are willing to tell you what you need to hear face to face, but they are not able to keep their mouth shut behind your back. There's a lot of backstabbing that goes on.
There's a lot of backstabbing with every type of group like that. But when you have kind of a central body that governs a whole community, you will get a lot of backstabbing. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the same with any walk of life, any job out there. Everyone's going to have their opinion and assume that their opinion is correct all the time. But then there are those out there that have been at this a long time who listen to everybody else's opinion first before slamming it. And I've even used a lot of other people's techniques on my own investigations to see if they work, and surprisingly enough, some of them have. And it's not necessarily long-term investigators that have put those ideas in my head.
Randy, I bring you back in here for a second in regards to this. Do you think, Randy, that when we come back into the full circle, as you said, about paranormal unity in regards to everything that we've come, and yes, I know we're hitting this topic that we hit already in the first hour, but when you are taking on this case and you are talking about with other investigators the way it should be run, the way people should have their notebooks lined up, and everything should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Out of all the paranormal writers that you've seen and maybe talked to, are you surprised that really nobody has taken the time to write a manual out?
Yes, and this is where I suggest again, Chad Stambaugh, created the A to Z manual. He's one of the biggest problems, even all this, that we don't see that manual. That manual doesn't exist. That manual exists because of television. And we refocus our efforts and we get angry at one another, and that we take a look at. Regardless whether it's Mike or Glenn or you or Derek or anybody or myself. We have to come down and sit down, and this is why I would love to do some of this more often and work together in order to understand, why do we investigate? Maybe if you have me on the next time, I'll introduce a para-unity doctrine to your audience and put it out there for you to post. See what people think. Good, bad, and different. We've got to start from someplace. If I want to make a chocolate chip cookie, I've got to go out and buy flour and sugar and learn to read my recipes. We need to do the same in the paranormal world and come together as a family.
Derek, we'll bring you back in now. Do you believe that we have the ability, with the people involved in this, to create some sort of handbook guide on the do's and don'ts of the paranormal?
I hear a funny thing. You'll see a lot of people that wrote books about how to use it, or like what type of equipment they're using, or certain paranormal teams that have done shows, but they never talk about the safety of it. They don't talk about that they're offering an opportunity for other people to learn, to come on location. They don't have those offerings because, again, you're going to go back into the same thing, the ego thing. Because if they got a whole bunch of people to come out on location and try to experiment and see what it's like to be a part of to experience the paranormal activity, that takes away their skills of how scary TV could be, or how scary the investigation can be, or how edgy it can be. It depends on. I'm sure you guys will understand what I'm talking about. The thing is that there are people out there that are willing to teach you, and yet I don't think you'll ever come across very, very many paranormal teams that want to offer a community to come and investigate a location. Mind you, you'll have them, people will invite them to come to pay money to a location, and you get to experience a paranormal or a paranormal activity in a specific, either a castle or a building, but they use this all the time. It's constant. They'll always have people come in and demonstrate what you may experience, and then other mediums may come in, other psychics may come in, other people that want to experience and see what it's like. But it's always one building. It's never a different location, just the one specific location. So pretty well, I really don't think there is any book that could be available. If there is, they're not going to tell you everything. They may give you step by step. I mean, I can easily write a book right now and give you step by step. And then Glenn may write a book and do step by step. And Mike might even write one and do step by step how to do paranormal investigating. Which one's better?
Each one's going to be different.
We're all going to be different. We're all going to be different. And so it's, and then they right now there are some places in Canada that you have to have a license to have a paranormal team. You have to have a license to investigate paranormal activity. You have to have a license to even be a psychic. And you can't just elect yourself as a psychic, come in locations when you feel like it. In Manitoba, you have to have a license. Ontario, you have to have a license. It's getting to the point now because they want people who are real, people that actually that are professional. And they want us to do the right job and be ready for it. So, there's going to be a lot more years to come yet to really want to offer someone or some people to do these type of things.
Mm-hmm. Eric Markham has a great question in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. He is asking, does anyone ever record the environmental variables, fields, and effects that are occurring during an investigation? Mike, let's start with you.
Do we ever record our investigation? Was that the question? Sorry.
No, I think he was asking about atmospheric variations.
Well, yeah, we record the temperature. We'll record the wind even.
Electromagnetic strength.
Yeah, that's what we'll use millimeters. We'll use actual temperature gauges you can buy from Canadian Tire, example, to detect cold spots. So yeah, we do. We'll, especially with weather and temperature changes, we're very, very vigilant with that.
Do you think that adds, Glenn, to the scientific study of everything?
Yes and no. But like I say, we're not really being taken seriously by the scientific community, unless you're an actual scientist who is a paranormal investigator. Good on you, Mark. But it's rare to actually get that kind of evidence with the equipment we have. We're working on a limited budget as it is, and the price of some of the equipment out there right now is just astronomical and ridiculous. Now, we'd love to have stuff like ground penetrating radar, which is never going to happen because there's no hope in hell we could ever afford that kind of equipment. But it's tough to get variables when you don't have the equipment to do it with.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense because affordability always comes into play with everything, and you can't help that. You can't help that because you're self-funded.
Well, it's not like we're going to get a grant for paranormal research. It just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Randy, bring you back in here for a moment in regards to everything. I'm wondering if you feel that there will come a day in the paranormal when we can actually come to some sort of concrete structure as to what we should be investigating compared to playing Pokemon Ghost.
The answer is yes. As we get closer, and you are an active participant now in the future with supernatural standards, we need to come up, and of course that's a euphemism right now, because there is no supernatural standards. What I've been trying to do with the Supernatural Diner is to try to come up with standards on cameras and standards on equipment that newbies can come start looking. So the answer is all of you, on the show tonight. I'd love to stay in contact with after the holidays and begin forming an A through Z. How do we investigate? Why do we? Now, I know you gentlemen are filming a television series and funding and everything else, and it's a terribly busy thing, but how can the newbie get a hold of a document and say, boy, this is a good idea? If I go out and buy golf clubs tomorrow, I'm not going to start digging holes. I'm not Curly, the Three Stooges. I either play the game correctly or else I'm asked to get off the golf course. Shouldn't we, as paranormal investigators, design this document, submit it to our peers, and then try to put it into practice?
It's a good idea to have a document like an A to Z on how to do paranormal investigations. But like I say, I know Chad has already been working on that book for some time because I actually gave him a hand with the editing on it. But it's nice to see that kind of book come out. Like he did a really good job of it. I'm really impressed with Chad. But it's like anything. Like I could get a book on, let's say, piloting a hot air balloon tomorrow. We'll read the book. Doesn't mean to say I'm going to hop in that air balloon and all of a sudden I know how to pilot it without any hands-on experience or hands-on training. I'd rather do a combination of both, where you can have that kind of manual, that A to Z, which gives you the basics or the basic premise on why we do what we do on investigations. But then again, that has to be hand in hand with some sort of hands-on experience in the field, where you actually go out with a team, you get to experience how to use the equipment firsthand, other than what's written down on a piece of paper. And you can find out what the variations are and that kind of thing. Like, if you mess around with the K2, shake it a bit, or just move it around too quickly, it'll spike like crazy, along with two-way radios. If someone contacts you on a two-way radio, it'll set off the REM pod, it'll set off everything else in the room, because it's picking up on that particular signal. So it's okay to have a manual, per se, like an A to Z, but like I say, to pair that with hands-on investigative experience would be a better way of doing things.
Oh yeah, there's so many tricks to the trade, like the SB7 spirit box. Remove the antenna so it lessens the radio interference. All that stuff should be outlined for people just starting out.
I got a question coming in from Jean in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, and he is asking, and Derek, I'll start with you on this one. What is your thoughts about sacred sites? Can you feel them? Because he can. And what is the significance in that type of research?
Well, it depends, because if there are some sacred sites, depends on if we're supposed to be there. There are some places I will not go because I follow the protocol of not walking on sacred land in certain areas. Unless it's by permission. But what I do a lot, I actually offer tobacco with a prayer and asking for permission if it's possible to be there. But if I get a very strong rejection, like don't be here, get off, go away, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to just stay around. It depends on each individual, because if it relates to First Nations territories and sacred sites, you don't want to mess with it, because there are people, it's been known generationally back that there were special, very powerful medicine men that specifically were trained to protect the land even after death. And those things can take place. I would not want to desecrate by standing on something or being in a location where I don't belong. But if you're given permission and they offer you an opportunity to come and check it out because they're saying it's okay, then there's no problem.
Randy, what do you think about researching on sacred sites?
Having done this already, as long as we look and follow the documentation. Once again, I'm a born-again Christian who's a paranormal investigator. When we go to sacred sites like churches and whatnot, we respect those and keep those in applicability. I pray sometimes up to 8-9 times a day, at times, especially this time of year, for families and whatnot. So as long as we stay in that decorum and stay focused on that decorum, I don't see a problem with it. I've done it. I've been inside churches. I've had mediums inside churches. We've been inside fires, which are now considered sacred. And whether you realize it or not, Fort Mifflin on the Delaware, which is considered one of America's highlights for freedom, has bodies buried in it that were there from Cornwallis. So it is a hollow ground, almost sacred area to the U.S. military. So the answer is, as long as we do the decorum correctly, it should stay that way.
I want to get in one more question here, and this gets back to the standards that should be set. And this comes from Everett, and I think this is a great question. Everett is saying, it's great to come up with a book full of standards for paranormal, but whose standards are the accepted standards?
Yeah, that's what I mean about creating that kind of book. Like, my standards are completely different from Derek's standards, from Mike's standards, to anybody else's standards. I have ideas on what I believe in, and if I put them down on paper, like you're saying, that's my thoughts. It's my way of thinking as far as the paranormal is concerned. Doesn't necessarily mean to say that it's going to be anybody else's way of thinking. So creating a standard from your own particular beliefs or your own methodology is not necessarily a standard, unless you can get a group together, a committee, where you can all sit down and discuss which is the general standard as opposed to one person's individual standard.
Mm-hmm. So would it have to be, say, something like a group of 15, 20 people of strong, well-respected paranormal investigators, Derek, to get together, to come into a room and say, look, we're not leaving this room until we hammer out some sort of protocol for the paranormal?
I misunderstood the question. I would say the only thing I can think of is, you can get a handful of psychics or a handful of just regular people coming into the room. Standards are standards, but you are asking them, or you basically tell them, for example, these are the rules or standards that we follow when we start to do our investigation. This is what we expect you to follow. So basically, when Glenn and I, Mike and Troy, when we're out there doing our work, and if there's anybody, and if they were doing a investigation, and there's people with us, we ask them to follow our protocol, what we do, and everyone does that. Everyone respects that. But and if someone says, "Well, I don't believe in this, or I don't believe in that," well, guess what? If you don't follow our rules, you're done. You're out, because we are trying to be respectful as possible as far as a paranormal team's concerned. We don't like to cross boundaries that disrespects other people, or people that are even in certain buildings or locations that we've been given permission to investigate. We try to be as respectful as possible.
Mike, what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is you can even word it as a tips and tricks of the trade type manual, because people don't want to be told how to do things, but they will be more receptive to tips and tricks.
Suggestions.
That's a good word. Like Glenn suggested about the couple suggestions he made, and also like the suggestion I made about like the SB7 spirit box, removing the antenna. There's a bunch of little tips like that that'll make your investigation a lot better and will limit your false positive readings or evidence.
Excellent. Gentlemen, I got to start to wrap this thing up. When are we going to start seeing some new filming for Chronicles? Glenn?
Pretty soon we'll get the holidays over with, and it's pretty much back to the grindstone for us. I'm still editing right now on the episodes that are being completed. Just doing some finishing touches, then we're ready to wrap those. So we still have maybe 3-4 investigations to cover for season 1.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Mike Moore and Derek White Sky Cloud, Glenn Ferguson from Chronicles of the Unknown, Randy Plessor, thank you so much, my friend. We're going to do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you, and Merry Christmas to all. New Year.
Absolutely. You guys all hold on. I'm going to start to wrap this thing up. If you're listening in on the Space Out Radio side, You are hearing Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. He is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, brings us in and takes us out of every single episode right here on the mighty SOR. If you want to hear our archives, this show or others, you can go to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn or download this show and others if you have an iTunes account. Tomorrow night on the show, we are talking Bigfoot with Samantha Ritchie. It's going to be a good one tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to it. I love me some Bigfoot talk. We're going to get into kind of the zen of Bigfoot. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Rob Murphy. Make that Rob Murphy Wednesday night. Casper Parks Thursday. Vanessa Hogel. Our last show before Christmas. Talking paranormal. We're going to get into it. There's your week. We'll be back in exactly 21 hours from now. I hope you are as well. Absolutely fantastic to have these guys on. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to our panel tonight. Because I don't say happy holidays. I say Merry Christmas. I expect all of you to as well. It's your choice, though. Have a good one. Talk to you later.